Manzhan unexpectedly met a cute little octopus who was preaching, and Yin Wu pouted and then traveled to the world of Hokage. It's okay if you don't have a system or bloodline, and you also have an octopus mouthpiece on your body. The good news is that this thing can eat anything. No matter what animals, plants, or various elements are eaten, they can extract energy and even strengthen the body, evolving the level of life. The bad news is, what to eat and what to make up for this thing is writing will I white I strong. Eat a few and grow a few. Is the tail beast Qiang strong? Do you mind having a few more tails? Is the devil fruit strong? Is it okay to have more patterns on your body? In order to survive better, Yin Wu can only ride on the inexplicable path of distortion. Yin Wu said, don't be fooled by my usual human-like demeanor, actually I. Guji, the sound of tentacles wriggling, key words of the novel. Cthulhu evolves from the fire shadow without a pop-up window. Cthulhu evolves from the fire shadow. Download the complete set of TXT, and read the latest chapter of Cthulhu Evolution from the Fire Shadow. Chapter 1. Others are the protagonists, and I am the only monster traveling through time, seeking. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. The Journey of Others as the Protagonist and Me as a Monster, recommended. Sir, do you understand the great deity who is omniscient and omnipotent, the Holy One of the Great Sleeping Lord, the ancient ruler of the past? The previous one who said he was omniscient and omnipotent, his son is still nailed to the cross, looking at you with a crooked neck. Offense the gods. Bite you. Ow. Yin Wu lay under the tree, reminiscing about his previous travels, looking up at the sky with lifeless eyes. Why are there octopuses preaching at the manga exhibition? And why did I keep my mouth low in the beginning? Just thinking about it, the cute octopus, which was only half a meter in size, suddenly grew bigger. With its ferocious mouthpiece covering its head, it took a bite and crossed over on the spot. Not only did he travel through time, but he also returned to his youth. His entire body went from being a youthful otaku at the age of 16 to being in his childhood. Not to mention, even his body underwent some strange and terrifying changes. Lowering his head, he glanced at his right hand. In his tender white palm, a ferocious and sharp strange mouthpiece was slowly wriggling, as if sensing Yin Wu's gaze. The mouthpiece suddenly opened, revealing several circles of even more terrifying teeth inside, pulling out a strange smile that was so eerie that it was worth laughing at. Yin looked away without hesitation. Fortunately he pretended to use his left hand to force calculating the time. He has been traveling to this world for over 2 years. When he first arrived here, Yin Wu was fortunate enough to be taken in by a kind-hearted rural old man. Due to his inability to speak Neon language, he was mistaken by the old man for a mute, which is why he named Yin Wu. At first, Yin Wu was puzzled as to why the world was speaking Neon language. However, as he became more proficient in Neon language, he heard some familiar words from conversations with nearby villagers, which finally cleared his mind of confusion. The 5 great powers, Ninja Village, Ninja, Kiba. To be fair, if given a choice, he would prefer to travel through the pirates rather than the Hokage. Although both worlds can be quite pathological, at least pirates are better off, aren't they? As long as you can eat and practice, even if you don't reach the level of the world's top superpowers, you can at least ensure that your life is worry-free, and there is no problem wandering around the world. But Hokage is different. To become a ninja, one must have identity, talent, and background. Otherwise, even if one learns some 3-legged ninjutsu, they will only be cannon fodder. And just a few days ago, the kind-hearted old man who adopted him also passed away. Yin Wu buried the old man, and after considering the danger of this world, he finally decided to move to the water country to prevent when the 4 wars suddenly broke out and he was suddenly hit on the head by a celestial shock star or 10-tailed beast jade flying from somewhere. So the question is, how should a cute little Zhengtai, who looks only 5 or 6 years old on the outside, cross mountains and seas? Hiring ninjas. It would be a good idea to conceal the abnormality in the right hand. However, calculating the time, Huoying village should be in a situation of blood mist. Shouldn't he be easily slaughtered by those crazy people as blood step ninjas? Forget it, let's take a long-term approach. Yin Wu's thoughts diverged, he looked up at the sky, and the beautiful dead fish's eyes flickered with a strange light. Suddenly, there was a rustling sound in the forest, and the sound did not tilt one's head. 3 figures were seen walking gracefully on the tree canopy, all dressed in lightweight ninja armor, with animal masks on their faces, looking majestic and murderous. Ninjas. How could there be ninjas in this mountain ditch? Yin Wu was a bit stunned when he saw this, unsure for a moment whether to sit up or continue lying down. However, just as he was stunned, the other person had already moved and landed in front of Yin Wu, and the 3 of them stood in a triangular position, surrounding him in the center. In order to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings, Yin Wu ultimately did not dare to react too much. He stopped his up movement, symbolically turned over, propped his head up with one hand, and looked at the other person in a coquettish manner. The white-haired ninja led by him twitched his lips under the mask and said, "Are you Yin Wu?" Yin Wu nodded, his uncle who adopted him did not have a surname. This is how most common people in the world do, so Yin Wu also did not have a surname, only a name called Yin Wu. "I'm Yin Wu, Taijun." "Ah no, is there anything that Ninja Lord wants me to do? Do you need to lead the way?" Yin Wu asked cautiously. "The Konoha Dark Ninja," the white-haired ninja said calmly, "has received a commission from nearby villagers to eradicate the monster." "Monster? I've been living here for quite some time, haven't I seen any monsters?" Yin Wu said, slowing down his pace and blinking his eyes. Suddenly, he realized in shock, the monster you're talking about shouldn't be me. White-haired ninja. Master Mingjian, I'm not really a monster. Yin Wu quickly clarified, well. At most, my physiological structure is a bit peculiar. What a bunch of bastards, the old man just left a few days ago and started thinking about going out of business. Wait a bit, if labor and management are lucky enough not to die, they will scatter all of you in the morning. Although Yin Wu knew that the villagers around him wouldn't like him due to a problem with his right hand, he didn't expect the old man to just leave, and this group of people even invited ninjas over. "Is it convenient for me to see your hand?" The white-haired ninja's voice was indifferent, although it was in an inquiring tone, but there was no hint of inquiry in his words. Yin Wu's expression was indecisive, but she still reached out her hand honestly, revealing the ferocious and terrifying mouthpiece in her palm. "Please hurry up, this thing looks too private. Your way of looking at it makes me feel like I'm running naked." The slender purple-haired woman next to her couldn't help but chuckle, and the white-haired ninja was also speechless for a moment. His gaze was fixed on Yin Wu's palm, and he thought to himself, "It's a blood heir I've never seen before." Cough. "It looks very distinctive," the last person in the dark who had been silent coughed and said, sounding like a sick seedling. "Little brother, have you tried to discover its ability?" The white-haired ninja looked at Yin Wu and asked. "It can eat." Yin Wu swore confidently. "I can tell." The white-haired ninja sighed. "Well, being able to eat a rabbit in an instant will replenish my stamina." Yin Wu said, waving his hand. "I'm not sure more about it. I haven't tried it much. Although the old man kindly took me in, he's still quite taboo about this thing, but I'm really not a monster. This thing is completely under control. Do you want to add chakra? A rare bloodline." The white-haired ninja pondered, "It's just a bit ugly. I'm used to it, but it's actually quite cute." "Right." Yin Wu pursed her lips and whispered, retracting her palm. The white-haired ninja did not dwell on the issue of the beauty and ugliness of the mouthpiece with Yin Wu, but shifted the topic and spoke calmly, "Undoubtedly, this is a very rare bloodline boundary, a special talent that belongs only to a few people. So here's the problem. Are you willing to continue staying here, young man, or are you willing to follow us back to Kiba and receive formal ninja training at a ninja school to tap into your own talents? I think you should also understand. The reason why we are here is that the blood inheritance realm is usually not very popular among the people. Yin Wu blinked and said, is there a possibility, that is, if you take me away from here to a place with beautiful mountains and clear waters and no one to disturb me, let me live quietly alone. The white-haired ninja remained silent, holding his arm and staring at him. Feeling the meaningful gaze from the other person, Yin Wu blinked and said, I love Mai. Actually, Mai is also quite good. Setting aside the repeated resistance against rice. Okay, I can't get rid of it, never mind, let him be. Anyway, with his current abilities, if there is any danger, there should be no problem escaping. Accompanied by 3 dark ninjas, Yin Wu finished paying respects to the old man and simply packed his luggage. With over 300,000 taels of inheritance left by the old man, he embarked on a journey to Kiba. Although it is likely that after going to Mai, I will be targeted by a pot king, based on the principle that as long as I am useless enough, no one can use me, Yin Wu feels that there is actually nothing to worry about. Moreover, in terms of my current performance, it is nothing more than filling my energy through rapid eating. A problem that can be solved with just 1 military grain pill is not worth the effort of Comrade Guo. The 3 dark ninjas were very swift and agile. The white-haired ninja skillfully searched Yin Wu's body, then carried Yin Wu on his back. The 3 of them walked rapidly on the tree canopy, like a phantom, towards the direction of the wooden leaves. Yin Wu lay on the back of the white-haired ninja, smacking his lips and speaking hesitantly, that. The white-haired ninja tilted his head slightly, and a dead fish eye under his mask looked dull. Is there anything wrong? Ah, it's nothing, Yin Wu turned her head and looked at the slender purple-haired woman beside her. I just wanted to ask, why isn't that pretty sister carrying me? Cough. There was a fierce cough behind him, and the sick ninja couldn't help but speak, you're thinking well, stinky little devil. The purple-haired woman chuckled at the words, and the white-haired ninja twitched at the corner of her mouth, unsure of what to say for a moment. Is she your girlfriend? Yin Wu looked at the sick seedling and asked. So what? The sick girl chuckled, envy me, kid. Having such a girlfriend, no wonder your body doesn't look good. Yin Wu turned her head and said, young people need to be moderate. The purple-haired woman suddenly laughed even louder and gritted her teeth in anger, saying, Captain, can I hit him? Bai Mao sighed and said, let's talk about it when we go back. The task is urgent. This kid, he's really a little kid with big ghosts. Although he is only 5 or 6 years old, he knows quite a bit. I heard that he was adopted by a kind-hearted old man before, and I don't know what that old man taught him. The ninjas have strong footwork, especially the highly efficient dark ninjas. Yin Wu estimated that the 3 of them were traveling at a speed of about 20 meters per second, and they all looked effortless. They traveled for 3 hours, about 200 kilometers, and successfully arrived at Kiba before dark. Looking at the tall wooden leaf gate in front of him, Yin Wu felt quite complicated. Seeing the wooden leaf that accompanied him throughout his youth in reality was undoubtedly a joyful thing, but if there were any options, he didn't want to be happy so early. Without waiting for the sound to fully appreciate the scenery of Konoha, he was taken by the white-haired ninja to the Hokage office building and saw with his own eyes the legendary strongest Hokage, the doctor of ninjutsu, and the monkey-flying sun slaying. In the vast circular office, there is a simple and antique desk. Behind the desk, the old man in a bamboo hat is smoking a pipe, and his gentle gaze carefully scrutinizes the innocent little face. That's this child, Lord Hokage. The white-haired ninja summarized the task beside Yin Wu. Yin Wu, male, aged between 5 and 6 years old, was adopted by the farmer Yamanosuke 2 years ago. Due to his unique blood relay appearance, he was rejected by the villagers. The specific ability of the blood relay is to replenish the lost chakra in the body through rapid eating. It is not yet determined whether there are any side effects. I see, it sounds a bit like a dark escape, I don't know if it's a mutated blood successor. Ape Flying Sun Zhan looked at Yin Wu with a smile and said, Xiao Yin Wu, can you show Grandpa your hand? Here. Yin Wu reached out and clenched his fist, suddenly his head twitched, and then slowly raised his middle finger amidst the expectant gaze of the Monkey Flying Sun Slayer. Monkey Flying Sun Slash. Dot. Give me a little more seriousness. Bastard. The white-haired ninja beside him turned black and punched Yin Wuji on the head. Yin Wuji screamed in pain, surprisingly offended Lord Huoying. Ha ha ha, it's okay, Kakashi. Monkey Flying Sun chuckled and waved his hand, scanning the ferocious mouthpiece in Yin Wu's hand. In a gentle tone, he said, a very lively child. Speaking of Xiao Yin Wu's age, he can almost enter ninja school. Hi. Kakashi nodded and said, this kid is very precocious. Personally, I think starting the ninja school course with his current situation is completely fine. Yin Wu tilted his head and glanced at Kakashi. Sure enough, this white hair was the legendary flag wood with 5 openings, and the identities of the two dark ninjas in the same team were also easy to guess. The purple-haired beauty should be Mao Yu Shiyen, and the sickly seedling was undoubtedly the moonlight and wind. Ape Flying Sun Zhan looked at Yin Wu and dragged a pipe in his palm, slowly emitting 2 faint wisps of smoke from his nose. Let's settle this child down first, why not take him to the welfare home first? Oh my. Yin Wu quickly raised her hand to interrupt Ape Flying Sun's words, I'm not going to the welfare home. I have money, can I buy a house here? Monkey Flying Sun was stunned for a moment, then asked with a smile, how much does Xiaoyin have? I still have 300,000 taels here, which was left by the old man. 300,000, should I be able to buy a house now, right? Yin Wu raised her small face and looked eagerly at the Monkey Flying Sun Slayer. 300,000 taels. Monkey Flying Sun Slash didn't expect that Yin Wu still had savings in his hands. Not long after the end of the 3 wars, he was pushed by 9 taels a few years ago, and Mu Yi was also in a state of disrepair. 300,000 taels would be enough to buy a good small apartment. At this stage, Mu Ye's house is not worth money. Considering the other party's practical blood step, Ape Flying Sun Slash smiled gently and decided to symbolically charge some money. After all, blood step ninjas are still very rare. Thinking of this, Monkey Flying Sun said happily, 300,000 taels is too much. If you buy a house, 100,000 taels is enough, Xiao Yin Wu. Yin Wu grinned and said, then I'll buy 3 sets. Monkey Flying Sun Slash. Newcomer's new book, seeking recommendation and monthly pass, everyone is whimpering and burping, P.S. In the original work, the sunset of the moon, the moonlight and the wind will join Kakasaban after the weasel. For the sake of plot harmony, the original supporting role is chosen instead of the dragon suit, which will not affect the plot. Don't spray thanks, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. Gifts from Yuzhibo, recommended. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Gifts from Yuzhibo, recommended. Half an hour later, Yin Wu happily followed Kakashi out of the Hokage building, holding 2 house deeds in her arms. On the side, Kakashi had already taken off his mask and looked at Yin Wu with the only exposed eye, feeling in his heart that this kid is really a vampire. A 300,000 yuan apartment in a store, it's like robbery. Kakashi couldn't help but recall the painful expression on his face just now when the Monkey Flying Sun beheaded. However, as the owner of the blood inheritance limit, this kind of care is also necessary. A house worth 300,000 yuan is definitely not enough, after all, people do not suffer from scarcity and inequality, which is unfair to others. But if 2 of the properties are replaced by 1 store, it can be claimed that they are policy benefits provided to attract blood and inherit the boundaries. After all, the rise of a family cannot be separated from economic and industrial support. It is still reasonable to have one store and one property, even if it is for free. The two of them arrived at a commercial area 3 intersections away, not far from the Huoying building, located in the middle of the commercial and political circles of Kiba. Kakashi took out 2 keys and pointed to the tightly closed store next to him. "This is the storefront you just bought, and upstairs is your apartment," he said. Yin Wu looked at the small building in front of her with a somewhat surprised expression and said, "Is this entire small building mine?" Kakashi chuckled softly and said, "The store is a bit small, but the advantage lies in its good location. If it is used for rent collection, there is still no problem with a monthly income of tens of thousands of taels, which is almost equivalent to a commission for a C-level task. Although it is not too much, it can still ensure a certain standard of living." Upon hearing this, Yin Wu chuckled and knew he had taken a big advantage. At least after traveling for 2 years, he still had some understanding of the world's prices. After all, it is a military stronghold of a country, and 300,000 taels in Mai is not a big deal, so it's barely possible to buy a small apartment with a good environment. The storefront downstairs is basically a free gift. Thinking of this, Yin joylessly took the key from Kakashi's hand and said, "Go upstairs and sit down." Kakashi shook his head and said, "No, it's getting late, I should go back too." Yin Wu looked at him pitifully and said, "Go upstairs and sit down." Kakashi stared fixedly at Yin Wu, feeling that his motives were impure. Feeling Kakashi's scrutinizing gaze, Yin Wuxian smiled and attempted to sneak through. "I'm a child of 5 or 6 years old. How should I tidy up this room?" Kakashi sighed helplessly and made a "run" mark on one hand. With 2 loud explosions, 2 shadow clones appeared next to him. One of the shadow clones snatched the key from Yin Wu's hand and disappeared in an instant before Kakashi also flashed away. Yin Wu only heard a loud clang upstairs. By the time he went upstairs, the entire room had been completely refreshed, and the 2 shadow clones had also exploded into a smoke that slowly dissipated. Ninjutsu is really useful. With a murmur, Yin Wu wandered around the room. All the necessary water and electricity were in place, and the bedding looked like standard. He also found a brand new set of swords in the cabinet. It seems that the original owner was a ninja, and it is unclear whether he died in the Nine Tails Rebellion or the Third Ninja Battle. Night fell outside the window, and the sound of the sound without a stomach growled loudly. After calculating the remaining money in hand, it was barely enough to cover 2 months of living expenses, so I decided to go downstairs and stroll on the street. On both sides of the street are mostly restaurants, taverns, and other places. Yin Wu even heard 2 ninjas hunched over their shoulders loudly clamoring to go to the neighboring street's custom store to sit down. Pooh! Dishonest and vulgar. Yin Wu sneered lightly, "You bastard, where is morality? Where is moral integrity? Where is the bottom line? Where is the location? You should be clear about which street it is." A wave of meat fragrance wafted in, and Yin Wu took a deep breath and discovered a barbecue restaurant called Barbecue. The famous Barbecue Q, except Yao Lamian noodles, is probably the most popular restaurant in the whole Huoying story. It is said that the boss behind it is Qiu Dao, and I don't know whether it is true or not. Although I really want to have a delicious barbecue meal, I still forget about it. After all, this world was born with neon lights as its background, and meat and fruits are outrageously expensive. If I really go in and have a full meal, I'm afraid I'll have to eat dirt for a while. Want to find Yao Lamian noodles? Maybe I can still meet the Crown Prince. Yin Wu thought for a moment, but let it go. After all, when I first arrived at Konoha, there might have been a dark side following me. At this moment, I suddenly approached the 9-tailed pillar power. Whether it was intentional or unquestionable, I'm afraid it would inevitably cause some trouble. Although curious about the protagonist of the story, for the current Yin Wu, stability is the most important thing. Nissan. I want to eat that apple candy. A crisp and lovely Zheng Tai sound entered Yin Wu's ear, and the mouthpiece in his palm suddenly felt restless. Without following the sound, a little boy with black hair was seen lying on the back of a boy a few years older. The older boy had long hair tied up, and the tear grooves on both sides of his nose were somewhat prominent, but it did not affect his handsome appearance. The boy on his back is even cuter, with black hair and black eyes. He has a beautiful and delicate appearance like a girl, like a delicate porcelain doll. Blood inheritance limit. If I guessed correctly, the two of them should be younger brother Konyu Yuzhibo Itachi and older brother Konyu Yuzhibo Sasuke. Yin Wu glanced at the two of them and then withdrew his gaze, calming the mouthparts that seemed to be drooling. Blood and flesh. Evolution. There seems to be a voice roaring in my heart, it comes from the will of the mouthpiece in my palm. Yuzhibo Itachi, who was buying apple candy with his younger brother on his back, paused slightly, his scalp tingling with unease. His gaze scanned silently before finally landing on Yin Wu, who had passed by the two of them. Children. I am about the same age as Sasuke, without any trace of training, but it can bring me a sense of threat. It's really amazing realizing that his brother was distracted. Sasuke followed Itachi's gaze and saw the cute little ghost that was not inferior to him. He couldn't help but become jealous and shout, "Nissan! What are you looking at? That child may be a genius, Sasuke, you'll have opponents in the future." Itachi couldn't help but laugh when he noticed his younger brother's reaction. Nanny. Sasuke turned his head and looked at Yin Wu's back. His small face bulged and he struggled to jump off Itachi's back, pointing to Yin Wu's back. Hey! That guy! Itachi quickly grabbed Sasuke and said, "Sasuke, don't be impolite." Not far away, Yin Wu turned his head and glanced at the two of them. "What's up?" Sasuke didn't look back when he saw Yin, so he immediately hugged his arm and pretended to be naive, saying, "My name is Uchiha Sasuke, you guy, give me your name." Uchiha. Bastard. That's a taboo of my ancestors' names. Sasuke couldn't help but hear that this guy was taking advantage of him, and suddenly became furious. Tisk. Yin Wu scratched her hair and said, "What's up with you?" Sasuke looked at Yin Wu with a snort, and immediately felt that it seemed like he had lost his composure. He couldn't help but curl his lips and say, "You guy, dare you accept my challenge?" Challenge. It's not impossible, but what's the benefit of winning? Yin Wu glanced at Sasuke and said leisurely, "It's not that I look down on you. I even need my brother's help to buy an apple candy. Forgive me for being blunt, you probably can't even make a decent bet, can you? Of course, I really don't look down on you." Upon hearing these words, Sasuke's face immediately turned red. Although he kept explaining, his disdainful expression was already on his face. "Alright Sasuke, don't cause trouble for others." Uchiha Itachi beside him touched Sasuke's small brain and gently comforted his younger brother. He also couldn't understand Sasuke's feelings. As the second son of Uchiha clan leader, Sasuke had an extremely strong sense of self-esteem since childhood, especially when he was with peers. In addition, just now I praised the other person again, and with Sasuke's temperament, it is inevitable that I will be somewhat dissatisfied. After receiving Nissan's head massage, Sasuke's emotions also eased. Just as he was about to reveal the matter with a few harsh words, he heard Yin Wu speak not far away. "Is this the legendary strongest family of Kiba, the Uchiha clan, who challenges others but cannot even show a decent lead? It's amazing." Ni sang. Sasuke was instantly enraged and almost opened his eyes on the spot, looking red at Uchiha Itachi beside him. Uchiha Itachi felt a little helpless upon seeing this. Just now, Sasuke's movements had already attracted the attention of many people around him. After finally calming Sasuke down, unexpectedly, the other party's words raised the dispute between the children to a level that concerns the face of the whole family. Now whether Sasuke wants to challenge or not, for the sake of the face of the Uchiha clan, he must carry out the challenge to the end. Otherwise, the two of them will inevitably be scolded by their father when they return home, and the clan will inevitably have criticism of this matter. For ninjas, victory or defeat is a common occurrence, and even if Sasuke loses, there is nothing to be ashamed of. After all, it is just a children's showdown. But if this challenge doesn't continue, the face of the Uchiha clan will really fall to the ground. Thinking of this, Yuzhibo Itachi couldn't help but let out a light sigh and looked at Yin Wu with a gentle tone, saying, "I don't know what kind of colorful head you can bring, little brother." Yin Wu took out a stack of banknotes from her arms and said, "I still have 5,000 taels here. If I lose, it's all yours, but if I win." Pointing to the nearby barbecue queue, Yin Wu grinned and said, "Please treat me to a full meal." 5,000 taels betting on a barbecue meal. Yuzhibo Itachi's eyes twitched. This little ghost must be very edible. 5,000 taels may not be a big sum, but it's still more than enough for a barbecue meal. For example, the price of special barbecued Lamian noodles, which is the favorite of Yao Lamian noodles gemming, is about 70.8 liang. At the exchange rate of 1.10 between Ninja and Neon, it is about 700 to 800 yen, and then it is about 40 yuan when it is converted into soft currency, and about 30 yuan when it is converted into ordinary Lamian noodles. That is to say, 5,000 taels is equivalent to over 3,000 soft girl coins. Even with Neon high prices as the standard, you can still eat dozens of plates of pork belly. The price of meat in childhood is expensive, but usually beef is expensive. Although pork is also expensive, it is not much expensive. According to research, it is around 30.50 yuan, but the price of beef is really outrageous, at least 5 or 6 times higher, so most barbecue restaurants mainly focus on pork. Okay, that's it then. Yuzhibo Itachi nodded and agreed to the bet. If you can eat it, you can eat it. After all, this battle was initiated by Sasuke, which is not reasonable in itself. It's not a big deal to lose a bit in the lottery. Moreover, with Yuzhibo's financial resources, not to mention 5,000 taels, it is only a drop in the bucket. Seeing the other party agree, Yin Wu turned slightly and hooked his hand at Sasuke, saying, "Come on." Sasuke glanced at the bustling crowd around him and frowned, "Is that right here? This is it." Yin Wu rolled her eyes and said, "Do you still need to pick a place to hit? Bastard." Sasuke suddenly became furious and picked up his small fist, shouting loudly as he rushed towards Yin Wu. "Take the move." Seeing Sasuke rushing towards her, Yin Wu's eyes widened slightly. To be honest, as the second young master of the Uchiha family, even if he was only 5 or 6 years old, he still had something on him. For example, when it comes to speed, it's hard to imagine a child aged 5 or 6 breaking out at a running speed comparable to that of a track and field athlete. Obviously, the other person has already distilled chakras, even if not much, which is enough to cause a qualitative change in physical function. And there is no sound. Unfortunately, he is still an ordinary person. Fortunately, he is not an ordinary person. Yin Wu thrust his hands into his pockets and suddenly turned around with a side kick. Bang! Xiao Sasuke, who was charging rapidly, was hit in the chest with a swift kick and suddenly flew backwards at a faster speed than before. Finally, he fell to the ground in a flat sand and goose-like manner. Ouch! Her cute little face turned blue and purple, and Sasuke almost vomited out the next night's meal. Before he could get up, Yin Wu's fair palm had already rested on his shoulder. "You lost." Yin Wu Xiao's cunning, like a little fox stealing a chicken. "Damn it." Sasuke gritted his teeth, his small face tense. Seeing the smug smile on Yin Wu's face, he couldn't hold back his grievances when he thought about how embarrassing he had been in front of Nissan. Tears rolled in his eyes and he said, "Bastard. You wait for me." Yin Wu looked at him like this and patted his mouth, saying, Okay, but remember to bring good luck next time." Ahahaha, wow, ah ah. Nissan. Upon hearing the piercing laughter, Sasuke's mentality exploded and he screamed as he threw himself into Itachi's arms. Itachi picked up Sasuke, unable to laugh or cry, and the onlookers around also burst into laughter. Well done, little brother. Surprisingly, you can defeat the young master of the Yuzhibo family. That child from the Uchiha family is also very talented, isn't he? At this age, he can extract chakras. After all, he's the younger brother of Uchiha Itachi. The crowd of onlookers were discussing one after another. Uchiha Itachi held Sasuke in his arms and looked at Yin Wu with a gentle tone, saying, I, Uchiha Itachi, am Sasuke's brother. I apologize for any inconvenience my younger brother may have caused today. Could you please tell me your name? No sound. A very nice name, with a tone of no king. Itachi smiled and said, according to the previous lottery, if you win, I will treat you to barbecue Q until you are full. Thank you very much. Yin Wu paused and said, the gift from Yuzhibo. Upon hearing these words, Sasuke in his arms suddenly cried even harder. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. The first meeting between Ninja School and the 12 Little Qiangs, recommended. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. The first meeting between Ninja School and the 12 Little Qiangs, recommended. Gulu gulu guji guji pushi pushi bam, bam, bam. The eerie sound of chewing echoed in the Q room of the barbecue meat, facing the dull gaze of the Yuzhibo brothers. With no sound or firepower, the ferocious mouthpiece in his right hand kept devouring the raw meat on the table, and his mouth was not idle. He used his left hand to pick up vegetables and quickly stuffed roasted pork belly into his mouth. Nissan, what is that? Sasuke's pupils trembled, his eyes frightened, and he unconsciously leaned towards Itachi. Perhaps it's some kind of peculiar bloodline. Yuzhibo Itachi was also surprised. He had seen the blood inheritance limit many times, but it was the first time he had seen such a disgusting blood inheritance limit. However, although he looks a bit disgusting, his ability should not be too poor. Watching Yin Wu, who was devouring the sea with a strange and twisted expression, Itachi couldn't help but recall the farce just now. From the beginning to the end of the battle, there was no chakra fluctuation on the opponent's body, and there was clearly no sign of training on his body. That is to say, this child completely defeated Sasuke with pure strong physique. This is unbelievable. Ninjas are a profession with high attack but low imitation. Once sealed with chakras, their own strength may not even be stronger than that of samurai. But if chakra is not sealed, even if you endure it, you can easily slaughter 10 warriors who have not mastered chakra. This is a gap in realm, and this gap cannot be offset by simple strength. It can be said that the reason why Yin Wu was able to defeat Sasuke was because his strength, speed, and reflex nerves were all above Sasuke, who had already extracted chakra. I think it's probably because of this strange bloodline. Watching a plate of pork belly instantly devoured by that terrifying mouthpiece, even half of the iron plate was bitten off, Itachi's eyelids couldn't help but jump. Speaking of which, this thing can be eaten more than just grilled meat, right? Just now, Yin Wu mentioned that this blood relay can replenish energy through eating, and according to his own speculation, this ability seems to have a role in enhancing his own strength. Recalling his inexplicable palpitations when he was just on the street, suddenly a flash flashed through his mind, and Itachi's gaze at Yin Wu's right hand became increasingly profound. Hiccup, thank you for your hospitality. After half a day, Yin Wu finally stopped eating, patted her round belly, and looked up to Hiccup. Eating too much, you bastard. Are you a pig? Sasuke exclaimed angrily. More than 200 plates of meat. The kitchen has been emptied. Although the price of grilled meat Q is a bit expensive, the portions are still very affordable. Each plate of meat is 1 pound of 2 pounds, and a normal person can only eat 2 or 3 plates at most. Surprisingly, this guy ate more than 200 plates alone. Although a large part of it was fed to the eerie right hand, Yin had no normal appetite and caught up with the group of foodies from the Autumn Taoist family. It's been a long time since I last had barbecue. Yin Wu covered her mouth gently and said with a sorrowful expression. I've never eaten such delicious food since the old man passed away. Sasuke's expression stiffened, feeling a bit uncomfortable in his heart. In the end, he awkwardly opened his mouth and said, I'm sorry. Ha ha ha, it's okay, I'll forgive you, damn it, I'll kill you. Realizing that Sasuke had been fooled, he was once again angered by Yin Wu and was about to have another fight when he slammed the table. Itachi beside him quickly grabbed him. Thank you for your patronage, the total is 22,300 taels. The chubby landlady brought the bill and looked at Itachi with a smile. I'm very sorry, I didn't bring enough money today. Itachi nodded politely, I'll make sure to deliver it in time tomorrow morning. Oh my, where are you talking about, Itachi? Just deliver it when you have time. The owner smiled and escorted the three of them out of the store. Say hello to Mei-chin for me. Okay, I'm sorry to bother you. Itachi politely bowed to the landlady and turned to look at Yin Wu. Has Yin Wu-jun eaten enough? Yin Wu-jun sucked on Yawazi with a wicked expression, nodding at the words. If you don't move around, you won't have to eat for at least a month. It's really enviable. Itachi smiled. If he had this ability, he wouldn't have to worry about consumption, would he? You can also eat tricolor dumplings as a staple food. However, thinking of his conjecture that he had no ability for eating just now, Itachi's eyes flickered slightly and he didn't say much. After greeting Yin Wu, he took Sasuke home. Yin Wu is that bastard. I will definitely defeat him next time. Sasuke was held by Itachi's little hand and walked home angrily. Nissan, can you help me with special training? Itachi's footsteps paused for a moment, but after some thought, he spoke up and advised, Sasuke, remember to stay away from that child in the future. Why? Sasuke puzzled, although that guy is annoying, he doesn't feel like a bad guy either. Well. How to put it, Yin Wu's bloodline gives me a very dangerous feeling. Seeing Sasuke's puzzled expression, Itachi smiled and said, but you're also right. Yin Wu-jun doesn't seem like a bad person, maybe I'm narrow-minded. Oh. Little Sasuke seemed to understand. On the other hand, after enjoying the gift from Uchiha, Yin Wu returned home satisfied. After washing up, she lay in bed playing with the set of hand swords that had been dug out of the cabinet before. Unexpectedly, after living in the mountains and valleys for 2 years, I finally came to Mai. However, he was not unprepared for this. He remembered that 2 years ago, he had just traveled to this world. Due to language barriers, he could only rely on the ability of his mouth to wander in the wilderness, absorbing the energy of flowers, plants, and trees for a living. At that time, someone wanted to entrust ninjas to eradicate his strange existence. Ninjas, it's really awkward to think about it, after all, those famous female ninjas have read their notebooks themselves. If we talk about notebooks, we have to count Sakura, Tsunade, and Hinata at the most, right? Speaking of which, I'm really sorry about that. But for these 3 people, Yin Wu really doesn't have any ideas. It's easy to understand why Sakura makes people feel indifferent. Hinata's weak personality is not his favorite style, and Tsunade is quite good. However, the age difference is too large, and in terms of practical factors, there is basically no possibility. Thinking in a daze, Yin Wu unconsciously fell asleep. Outside the window, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse, and the shadows of the trees were indistinct. A cold voice could be heard from the withered branches, cough. This kid is really good at eating. Susu, a gust of wind swept by, and a white-haired figure appeared on the tree crown. Is there any abnormality? Is eating 200 plates of grilled meat considered abnormal? What? The target accepted the challenge from Uchiha Sasuke and won over Itachi, who had a barbecue and ate over 200 plates of food. Most of them were eaten by that strange blood relay. Cough cough. However, speaking of it, this little ghost's physique is very strong, probably due to the influence of that blood relay. Kakashi didn't know where to start roast for a moment. After 2 seconds of silence, he waved his hand and said, "Stop. Don't you need to continue monitoring?" "No need." Kakashi shook his head slightly, and everything in the past with no sound was traceable. According to the villagers who provided the information, the child was only about 3 years old when it was first discovered, and he couldn't even speak. He was probably abandoned from birth due to that unique bloodline, and it was probably thanks to that bloodline that he survived. This resume is cleaner than many locals in Kiba, and surveillance is just a routine matter. Looking at Yin Wu sleeping soundly in the room, Kakashi's gaze softened slightly. Although some people were mischievous, his senses of Yin Wu were quite good the next day, at 7 o'clock in the morning. Yin Wu was awakened by a sudden doorbell, and as she looked at the unfamiliar ceiling, she stirred her brain for a long time before realizing that she had already settled in Mai. Yawning, he got up and went to open the door, only to find Kakashi leaning against the door, holding a book of Intimate Paradise with relish in his hand. "Kakashi." Yin Wu tilted his head and his drowsy hair swayed as he moved. "What's up?" Upon seeing Yin Wu open the door, Kakashi slammed his little uncle shut with a lazy tone and said, "Although I don't remember it so early, do you still remember what Lord Hokage said yesterday?" "I came to take you to ninja school." Yin Wu's dead fish eyes cast a sideways glance at Kakashi and said, "It seems like you haven't considered my opinion at all." Kakashi scratched his hair somewhat helplessly and said, "Well, although it's a bit disrespectful, you should be able to understand it, right? As one of the strongest military organizations in the world, Kiba doesn't make sense to have a new type of bloodline continuing to live in the deep mountains and forests compared to other ninja villages. I think Kiba's policy is already very gentle. At least you are now living in a new home instead of lying on the operating table in the laboratory." "Of course I understand," Yin Wu murmured, "but going to school at 7 o'clock in the morning is a bit inhumane." To be honest, I think the same way every morning." After a simple wash, Yin Wu followed Kakashi out the door and was led by Kakashi towards the other end of the village. "By the way, Kakashi, I can't afford the tuition fee." Yin Wu walked on the road and suddenly patted her head, then turned to Kakashi and emphasized. "Don't worry, orphans are free of tuition," Kakashi said casually. "But I haven't attended school, what if I can't keep up?" Yin Wu asked again. "Don't worry, the new school year is just starting, and the school is a 6-year program. In the first 2 years, we won't teach you anything useful, but in the middle 2 years, we will teach you something meaningless. Only in the last 2 years will you learn something useless." Kakashi looked at Xiao and said casually. "So what is the significance of ninja school?" Yin Wu's mouth twitched. "I'm not sure, I graduated in the first year of junior high school," Kakashi said with a smile in a Versailles. "But there are beautiful female teachers at ninja school, just like the dark sister I was with yesterday. It sounds like a good place." Yin Wu was lost in thought. "Yeah, if possible, I really want to go back to my student days." Kakashi closed the book and looked up at the sky, his tone slightly melancholy. 20 minutes later, Kiba Ninja School, in the classroom office. "Where's the agreed beautiful female teacher?" The angry voice roared at Kakashi, pointing at Hino Irika behind his desk. "Well, I'm talking about the teacher, music and art." Kakashi casually waved his hand and looked at Irika. "I've brought the person with me, so I'll leave it to you next." "Hi. Senior Kakashi." The young Irika looked serious. As the words fell, there was a loud bang, and Kakashi, who had no voice beside him, exploded into a cloud of smoke. Shadow clone Yin Wu raised her eyebrows slightly and looked at Irika beside her, saying, "Irika Sai, I want to learn this." Upon hearing this, Irika smiled gently and said, "Shadow clone is an advanced clone technique that can separate entities. If you want to learn, you still need to start from the basics." "Alright, Yin Wu Juan, let me take you to the class to meet your new classmates. Yin Wu let out a sound and followed Iruka out of the office. The two of them arrived at the entrance of the class, and from a distance, Yin Wu could hear a commotion in the class. If it were the teacher on Earth, they would have gone berserk long ago, but Iruka looked accustomed to it. With a loud bang, Iruka opened the class door and said loudly, "All right, everyone go back to their seats. Then, let's get out of the window." "Hey!" A bearded yellow-haired little ghost jumped off the windowsill with a smile, and the class quickly quieted down. Everyone returned to their seats. A new classmate has arrived in the class today. Yin Wu, come on stage and introduce yourself. No sound. By the window, a boy with his chin propped up and looking out the window turned his head to look at the podium in shock. On the podium, Yin Wu put his hands in his pockets and said, "My name is Yin Wu." Upon seeing that he was gone, Iruka quickly whispered a reminder, "Tell me about your interests, hobbies, dreams, and so on." Yin Wuto tilted his head and said, "Are you interested in hobbies such as food, fishing, and taking a nap? You have a lot of dreams, but in the short term, economic freedom." Upon hearing this, Iruka's eyes twitched. Economic freedom. Are children's thoughts so mature now? Hey! He's a handsome guy. He doesn't feel worse than Sasuke. Different from Sasuke Jun, lazy style. As Yin Wu finished introducing herself, the girls in the class made a commotion, while the boys pouted with displeasure. Yin Wu looked around, including Naruto, Nara Lumaru, Aikido Tinji, Inazukaya, Haruno Sakura, Yamanaka Ino, Hinata, and Uchiha Sasuke. 9 of the 12 strong players in the Muyi family are all here. Although they are still young, they can still recognize each other at a glance. However, did they just forget who they were? Noticing that Yin Wu's gaze was fixed on him, Sasuke snorted lightly and turned his head away with a displeased expression on his face. Seeing an acquaintance, Yin politely greeted, "Oh, Yuzhibo gift. It's Uchiha Sasuke." Sasuke couldn't hold his tension anymore and slammed the table, roaring and looking at Yin Wu fiercely. "You bastard. Don't be too proud. Yesterday was just your luck, I will definitely defeat you next time." Defeat. The classmates in the class were in an uproar, and Iruka also looked at Yin Wu in surprise. Not to mention Sasuke's identity as Uchiha, he himself is still the top student in his grade. Not long after the start of school, he successfully extracted Chakra's genius, and how could Yin Wu defeat Sasuke? No wonder Senior Kakashi personally brought it. It turned out to be a genius. Looking at Sasuke, who had fried hair, Yin Wu scratched her hair and said, "So. Are the colorful headdresses ready?" I killed you." Opening 3 sheets of 12,000 words, seeking recommendations, everyone is whimpering and burping. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Reduel with Sasuke, 4005. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Reduel with Sasuke, 4005. Listen up, invisibility is the most commonly used basic camouflage technique among ninjas. Ninjas usually use their surroundings to disguise themselves and achieve a hidden effect that blends in with the environment. Advanced invisibility, on the other hand, achieves a chameleon-like camouflage effect by using the flow of chakras on the body surface after sealing, which is not only more convenient but also more effective. On the podium, Iruka talked incessantly, while most of the students below were absent-minded. Yin Wu was actually studying very seriously. Although in the later stages of the plot, there is rampant cheating and shouting with just one hand, the practicality of ninjutsu itself is undeniable. After a class, the boys in the class slept halfway through, with Naruto and Lumaru sleeping the best. As the bell rang for the end of class, Iruka left the classroom with a lesson plan, and Yin Wu was instantly surrounded by the girls in the class. Nah, did Yin Wu just move in, my? Where does Yin Wu live? What does Yin Wu like to eat? Yin Wu Shue. There was a commotion around, with no sound or laughter. Girls in the ninja realm were much more enthusiastic than those on Earth, although she has never had much concept of her own appearance, based on the reactions of people around her since childhood. Yin Wu also knows that she is considered one of the more attractive types. When walking outside, there are often girls who need to contact her. However, it is really rare to be surrounded by girls like this. I'm talking about you. Suddenly, a scolding came from beside her, and a golden-haired little loli with slanted bangs stood up impatiently. Can you be quiet? It's difficult not to see Yin Wu. In the mountains and in the wilderness, my desk mate with no sound. Because each new student at ninja school has a fixed admission quota, the number of students in each class and the table are just right. However, fortunately, the table is long enough, and it is not crowded for 4 people to sit at the same table. Therefore, the girl warmly pushed Lumurudingji aside and made room for Yin Wu. Ha! What are you talking about? Inoue. A girl with an onion head looked unhappy. What's it to do with you? Don't you like Sasuke? Inoue hugged his arm and sneered contemptuously, you're a bit wrong. I'm not just fond of Sasuke, I just like every handsome guy equally. What did you say? Bastard. The onion head suddenly became furious. As the conflict intensified, Sasuke by the window suddenly stood up and walked towards Yin Wu, causing the girls in the class to scream in surprise. Sasuke, the onion-headed girl had a seductive expression on her face. Could it be that Sasuke came to stand up for me? Oh, I hate it. What should I say? Get out of the way, the guy in the way. Sasuke glanced at the onion head, and the onion head girl suddenly felt embarrassed. Then, she wilted like frost-beating eggplant and made way for her position. Yo, gift from Yuzhibo. Yin Wu greeted with a cheerful expression. It's Sasuke. Sasuke's face turned black, he snorted lightly, and threw a note to Yin Wu. I heard Nissan say that you don't seem to know how to extract chakras yet. This is the chakra extraction note I took. I advise you to master it quickly, otherwise defeating an ordinary person won't bring you much sense of achievement. Yin Wu innocently shrugged and said, but you were just defeated by ordinary people. Sasuke suddenly became angry and said, no way to compete. I will definitely smash your mouth in the next practical class. With a cold snort, he turned around and left. Has Yin Wujuan not learned the chakra extraction technique yet? Ino looked at Yin Wujuan with some surprise. Indeed, I only arrived at Muyi yesterday, Yin Wu nodded. Hey! Even chakra couldn't defeat Sasuke. Yin Wu, you're really amazing. Sasuke is the top student of our class. Inoue said with great enthusiasm, do you want me to help you cultivate? Is that okay? Thank you very much. Yin Wu pushed her notebook and said, actually, I haven't recognized all the ligatures yet. Ino. Can't you even recognize a word? It seems that we can only explain it orally. As for word recognition, let's teach it a little more later. Seeing Yin Wu's serious and handsome face, Inoue couldn't help but blush. How does it feel so exciting to cultivate a well-behaved boy from recognizing words until he grows up? The so-called chakra is a product of the average mixture of physical energy extracted from 130 trillion cells in the human body and spiritual energy refined through cultivation and refinement. Inoue taught very seriously and explained clearly. After all, he is the future head of the ninja family. Although he did not start training early, he has been familiar with the basic knowledge of these ninjas since childhood. Yin Wu Ting is also very serious. After all, chakra refining is the foundation of the ninja cultivation system, and without chakra, everything is useless. And calculate the time, it's almost time for him to evolve. A wave regarding his ability to inherit blood, Yin Wu did not fully disclose to Kakashi. In fact, his ability goes far beyond just chakra recovery and physical enhancement. Devouring evolution. This is the true ability of this mouthpiece. By devouring elements such as animals, plants, and even earth and metal, extracting energy from them while analyzing them, one can evolve into the same or even stronger talents or abilities. It sounds strong, but it has a slight flaw that makes Yin Wu hesitant to use this ability. The chakra in this world is a very powerful and omnipotent force. If possible, Yin Wu feels that relying on the cultivation of chakra and simply using physical strength to enhance this ability is not impossible to become the top powerhouse in this world. How are you? Do you understand? Inoue beside him turned his face and looked at him with a burning gaze. Yin Wujian nodded and said, the general idea is to extract proportional physical energy through spiritual energy, right? How about it? Do you want to give it a try? Inoue looked expectant. If you don't have any sound, you can quickly extract chakras. Let's give it a try. Yin Wujian stood up, left an impression, and then distilled a sense of loneliness. What is the choice to use spiritual energy to stimulate physical energy? The mysterious and mysterious thing is too illusory for a child growing up under the red flag. But if I could swallow a ninja, can we just swallow chakra directly? Thinking of this, Yin Wu looked at Sasuke by the window and grinned, as a gift to classmates. Sasuke, who was being a quiet and beautiful man, suddenly had a scalp explosion and turned his head with a black face. Are you deliberately picking trouble? He said. Yes. Damn it. Sasuke gritted his teeth in anger, but still didn't rush forward impulsively. Yin Wu looked at his angry expression and grinned. Do you want to get rid of your previous shame? I can give you this opportunity. Upon hearing this, Sasuke's gaze fixed and he said, what conditions? Yin Wu raised a cunning curve at the corner of her lips and said with a smile, if you lose, you need to cooperate with me to conduct an experiment. You may get hurt, but there won't be any danger. With a soft snort, Sasuke stood up and walked away. The playground is waiting for you. Hello everyone. Yin Wu and Sasuke are going to have a showdown on the playground. Ino, who heard the entire conversation between the two, looked excited and quickly shouted loudly after they left the class. Nanny nanny. A sleeping yellow-haired man suddenly woke up. Is that guy from Yin Wu and Sasuke? Is Sasuke planning to retrieve the previous venue? Inuzuka yet chuckled beside him. The class suddenly exploded, with girls rushing out of the classroom and heading towards the playground, while boys gathered by the window, speculating on the outcome of the competition. Not only Yin Wu's class, but when Yin Wu and Sasuke arrived at the playground, the windows of each class in the teaching building were already crowded with people, even the windows of the teacher's office were watched by teachers. After all, as the second son of the Uchiha family and the chief student of the first grade, Sasuke's reputation is still very high, and any slight disturbance in his daily life will attract the attention of many people. Very popular, gifts. Noticing the high atmosphere in the school, Yin couldn't help but joke. Boring. Sasuke let out a soft snort and made a calm mark on his face. I understand. The seal of opposition, right? Yin Wu imitated the gesture of the seal of opposition and then leaned slightly, hooking his hand at Sasuke. Come on, just like last night. Sasuke's face turned black, and he raised his hand to see two swords in his hand. The swords in his hand flew out in a beautiful arc, and then he rushed towards Yin Wu like an arrow leaving a string. Yin Wu's gaze flickered slightly, with a sword in his hand on the left and a sword in his hand on the right. In the center was an attacking Yuzhibo, and without hesitation, Yin Wu chose to face Yuzhibo directly. Sprint for 2 steps to avoid the sword in hand that flew towards Sasuke, and Yin Wu charged straight towards him. Seeing Yin Wu charging towards him, Sasuke's gaze froze. Since yesterday's confrontation, he had noticed that the opponent's reflexes were incredibly strong. Although there were many loopholes in their movements, they were very sharp, fast, and powerful. In terms of physical combat, there is no doubt that one is at a disadvantage, so in order to defeat the opponent, one must establish sufficient advantages in physical combat skills. Thinking of this, Sasuke didn't hesitate to strike with a straight punch from Uchiha. Seeing the opponent also hit with a punch, Sasuke's eyes flashed with a smile. Got hooked. Just as the two were about to engage in a fist fight, Sasuke suddenly withdrew his fist and, using the momentum of his sprint, grabbed Yin Wu's fist sideways. He reached out and grabbed Yin Wu's wrist, then suddenly turned around. Take the call. Yuzhibo fell over the shoulder. Next second, with a whoosh, Sasuke flew out like a shell, and was thrown out by Yin Wu with his arm thrown like a pancake. How could it be? In mid-air, Sasuke's eyes were wide open, his face full of disbelief, and then he fell to the ground with a loud thud. Yin Wu patted the floating ash on his clothes and said, "Oh my, I almost fell off your shoulder." The absolute difference in strength. Sasuke's forehead oozed a cold sweat, not paying attention to Yin Wu's teasing words. The experience of training with his father and older brother since childhood told him that there is an insurmountable huge gap between their abilities, which is not something he can surpass at the moment. The lazy boy in front of me is as powerful as a fierce beast, as if he were a salted fish. Continue to entangle with physical techniques, either lose or die. Thinking of this, Sasuke pulled out several swords in his hand, his arms slightly open, and the swords were sandwiched between his fingers. Uzi wave flow. Sword dancing in hand. Hiss, a fierce sound of breaking through the air rang out, and Sasuke suddenly spun around. The 6 swords in his hand suddenly bloomed and scattered in all directions. After circling in mid-air, they then circled around in the direction of no sound. And between Sasuke's fingers, 6 thin and imperceptible threads were sandwiched between them, waiting for the moment when no flaws were exposed to give him a fatal blow. Sasuke gritted his teeth tightly, his gaze fixed on Yin Wu. Get caught, hurry up and get caught. 6 swords in hand shot towards Yin Wu from all directions, and Yin Wu suddenly rushed forward to dodge the sword in his hand. Sasuke's eyes flickered, his lips curved slightly, and then he forcefully pulled with both hands. The sword in hand, which had deviated from the target, suddenly shook its tail and shot towards Yin Wu's direction again. Whoosh! The slender figure suddenly leaped up into the sky, blocking the sky light that was casting towards Sasuke. Here we go. Sasuke's face lit up with joy, and his hands quickly formed marks. Si Wei Shen Hai Wu Yin. Fire escape. The art of the giant fireball. Accompanied by a roar, Sasuke's 2 fingers curled up in front of his lips, his chest suddenly bulging, and a surging fireball, over a meter in size, erupted, roaring towards Yin Wu, who was nowhere to rely in mid-air. Not good. In the classroom office, Irika's face changed as he stood up and was about to rush out of the window. It's actually the Hogwarts technique. Can Sasuke already use this ninja technique? It's so chaotic. The duels between ninjutsu students are usually only about physical skills, ninjutsu, and so on. For ninjutsu students, it is still too early. For most students, the duels that can use the 3 body techniques are already stunning. No one expected that Sasuke, who was just in his early 60s and had just entered ninja school, would be able to unleash Uchiha's signature skill, the fireball. In mid-air, Yin Wu, who had nowhere to rely on, looked at the huge fireball rushing towards him and calmly extended his right hand. In the next moment, the surging fireball seemed to have deflated, squeezing and spinning as it was devoured by the strange mouthpiece protruding out. Due to the angle issue, others did not see the process clearly, only Sasuke, who was directly facing Yin Wu, saw the process firsthand. How could it be? Sasuke's eyes widened in disbelief as he watched Yin Wu fall in front of him. You even have flames. Aha! I forgot to introduce myself to you. Yin Wu raised her right hand with a smile and gestured, I can devour animals, plants, and even all substances, including elements, and turn them into energy to supply myself. Sasuke hesitated upon hearing the words. Yes, the other party could even nibble on an iron plate. What's so strange about devouring flames? Damn it. I should have thought of it long ago. I lost. Sasuke gritted his teeth, although unwilling, he was not someone who couldn't afford to lose. At present, my biggest trump card has been cracked by Yin Wu, and continuing is just a disgrace to myself. Tell me, what experiment? I will try my best to cooperate with you. Sasuke hugged his arm and let out a soft snort, avoiding turning his head. No, I think it's not needed anymore. Yin Wu glanced at her right mouthpiece and said inexplicably, my goal has been achieved. He originally intended to try to extract chakras from Sasuke under the guise of an experiment, but just as he devoured the opponent's giant fireball, he successfully obtained this power through his analytical ability in mouthparts. So, although they have the same properties and abilities, do chakra creations still have fundamental differences from natural elements? Looking at the opening and closing mouthparts in my palm, my voice was lost in thought. In the past, although he had also used his mouthpiece to devour and analyze various elements, according to the general process, those natural elements that were swallowed up would be converted into energy to supply Yin Wu himself, and would not bring him the brand new power attribute of chakra. Although Sasuke's giant fireball is also a flame, its essence is derived from chakra's transformation, which is why the mouthpiece analyzes the original structure of this power after devouring the opponent's ninjutsu. Just as Yin Wu was studying the new power of chakra, inside the Hokage office building, Ape Flying Sun / looked at Yin Wu and Sasuke inside the crystal ball, his eyes surprised. Not only did it eliminate the opponent's attack, but it also utilized the blood relay ability to absorb the opponent's chakra. Is it indeed a Ming-dun? Although the appearance is a bit strange and the ability is even broader than that of Ming-dun, there is no doubt that from the perspective of ability, this is a variant of Ming-dun. Speaking of which, Yen Yin's explosive escape secret technique can also be manifested in the form of his mouth. Is it a new type of blood inheritance formed by mixing the dark escape and explosive escape? Or is it a product that mutates based on the foundation of Ming-dun? Anyway, it's a very powerful ability. It's just a bit ugly. 4,500 word update, seeking recommendations. Big guys, humming and burping, P.S. In the original work, Sasuke learned how to play Hogwarts about a year later. Here, some modifications have been made for the plot, so please don't criticize. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Practice it first, recommended. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Practice it first, recommended. So you started this duel just to get chakra, right? Sasuke saw no expression on his face as he looked at his palm in a daze. He quickly figured out the key and couldn't help but sulk. So if I lose, you'll bite me with that ugly thing. Ha ha ha. Yin Wu scratched her hair and said, if you're used to it, it's actually quite cute, isn't it? Don't even think about it, Sasuke snorted softly. Chakra, who can absorb ninjutsu, has decent abilities. However, don't be too proud. When I activate the Sharingan, you will no longer have any resistance. Hi, you're all right. Yin Wu waved her hand and turned around to leave. The goal has already been achieved, so he is too lazy to argue with Sasuke. Only when his father and mother are dead and the entire clan is dead can he anger and open a trap. Why do you pretend to be so forced? Damn it, you dare to look down on me. Sasuke looked at Yin Wu's back, his teeth itching with anger. Isn't it just relying on the ability of blood inheritance? What's so great about it? On the day I turn on my riding wheel, I must step on you hard. Wash your neck and wait. How can it be repaired? After the duel ended, Yin Wu walked towards the teaching building and was soon surrounded by a large group of girls. Wow! Yin Wu classmate, you're amazing. What was that just now? Blood inheritance limit. Does it look like it has absorbed ninjutsu? Nah, Yin Wu, can we have a look? Listening to the chaotic commotion around her, Yin Wu nodded with a smile and said, of course you can. As she spoke, amidst the eager, curious, and admiring gaze of a large group of girls, Yin Wu slowly opened her right hand, revealing her ferocious and eerie mouthpiece. It seemed like I felt myself being surrounded by a large group of people, my mouth suddenly opening, revealing several more ferocious teeth inside, and I couldn't wait to express myself. Swallow. Swallow. A hoarse and strange roar sounded, and the air seemed to be silent for a moment. Next second, ah! Monster! The piercing screams rang out, and Yin Wuxian was immediately hit by a series of screams. The girls around her suddenly dispersed and rushed towards the direction of the teaching building, one by one, fleeing from Yin Wuxian's side. How could this thing still talk? Yin Wu stood behind him, Sasuke holding his hands in his pockets, his eyes surprised. At least it's also a mouth, is it strange to speak? Yin Wu put away her mouth and smiled happily. Although he doesn't dislike the feeling of being surrounded by birds, and swallows, the little girl's chatter is too annoying. Is that some strange bloodline? It looks so disgusting, said Ino's disdainful voice in her ear. It wasn't until then that Yin Wu realized that the other person hadn't run away with the girl. Are you not afraid? Yin Wu was somewhat surprised by the other person's reaction. Although it may seem uncomfortable, after all, it's just the blood inheritance limit, right? What's scary about it? Inoue was quite proud and said, don't confuse me with those cowardly guys. Amazing. Yin Wu nodded, not to mention anything else, at least the other party's courage was quite strong, worthy of being the next head of the Duren clan. Speaking of which, are you two okay? Are you not injured? Inoue asked with concern. Humph, mind your own business. Sasuke snorted lightly and turned around to leave. Sasuke-jun is still so cold. Inoue's face collapsed, a bit disappointed, and then looked at Yin Wu again. Yin Wu, where are you? I'm fine, Yin Wu nodded happily, feeling very good as he gained new strength. I have extracted the chakra, and I really want to thank you for your help. If it weren't for Ino, I wouldn't have achieved my goals so quickly. Hehe, where's that? Inoue held her little face with some embarrassment. Sure enough, Yin Wu is much gentler than Sasuke, but unfortunately, Shueji is too scary and feels a bit difficult to accept. However, in terms of personality, Yin Wujuan seems to be very mature. If you are in a relationship, you must be very good at taking care of people, right? Oh, it's so difficult to make a decision, Xiaohua muttered in her obsession and followed Yin Wu back to the classroom. As soon as I returned to the classroom, I saw Irika scolding Sasuke, seemingly due to the opponent releasing the fireball. Sasuke had a foul face and reluctantly received the training. The girls in the class were no longer clinging to Yin Wu's side, each with a fearful expression, keeping a distance from him. Only Ino sat beside him nonchalantly, and Sakura, who had a good relationship with Ino, sat not far away. During this period, Sakura appeared to have a submissive personality, with her delicate bangs covering her forehead and a small transparent appearance, making it difficult to associate with her image from a few years later. Ah, Arnosa Yin Wu, come and confront me. A little yellow-haired creature leaned in front of Yin Wu and grinned foolishly. If we defeat you, it's equivalent to defeating Sasuke, isn't it? I refuse. Yin Wu refused the other party's request without hesitation. Really, Naruto, Yin Wugang just finished a showdown with Sasuke. Don't cause trouble for him at this time. Ino pinched his waist with a somewhat helpless expression. Yin Wugang, don't pay attention to him. This guy is the tail of our class's crane. I'm so annoyed, mountain pig. What are you talking about? That's too much. Bang. Accompanied by a scream, Naruto collapsed on all fours, with a big bump on his forehead. Ino snorted coldly and withdrew his fist. Seemingly realizing that her behavior was too violent, the little girl awkwardly shifted the topic and said, Yin Wujuan, you still don't know how to wield swordsmanship, do you? This afternoon is a training class for wielding swordsmanship. Do you want me to teach you how to practice it first? No, I'm too lazy to move. Yin Wu lay down on the table, gradually emitting a salty fish smell. The most important chakra for ninjas is already possessed by him. After being devoured and decomposed by his mouthparts, he has evolved the ability to extract chakras himself. Now that he can climb trees and step on water without any problems, he plans to lie flat. The sword in hand can be learned, but there is no need to put too much effort into it. The damage of this thing is too low, and it cannot even pierce the beard, so it can be used to torture a vegetable. Yin Wu is not a person with lofty ideals and aspirations. Before his time traveling, he was only 16 or 17 years old. He was just a collection of salted fish, otaku, and happy people. Under the pressure of high school courses, he took a break from his busy schedule. His greatest dream in life was to become a physical education teacher, and he was very happy to be able to eat and play basketball every day. Suddenly transitioning into the world of Hokage, although it may seem a bit rushed, there is nothing that cannot be ignored by Yin Wu. Once you arrive, take it easy. So when it comes to learning and training, just go with the flow, live peacefully and happily, and be able to blend in every day. This is his way of endurance. Next, no sound. Soon, in the afternoon, the hand sword training class. Yin Wu walked out of the queue, took a handful of Ku Wu, and looked at the wooden target 10 meters away. Target distance: 10.05 meters. Wind speed: 1.6 meters per second. Kawewe: 500 G, it's now. With a loud shout, Yin Wu suddenly threw out his hand of Kuwu. Next second, with a popping sound Yin Wu glanced at Irika, who was groaning with her thighs covered, and then turned her gaze to Inoue. Her tone was slightly regretful, saying, I knew I should have listened to you. Let's practice first. Inoue. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Naruto Vortex. Recommended. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Naruto Vortex. Recommended. A day passed quietly, and the first day of ninja school experience was very good. Everything went smoothly except for accidentally throwing the sword into Irika's thigh. Although Irika was accidentally injured by Yin Wu, he didn't care much about it. He just shouted a few angry words before limping to the hospital. The students in the class also took advantage of Yin Wu and felt the joy of leaving school early. By the way, Yin Wujuan, where do you live at home? The students bounced away from school, and Ino followed Yin Wujuan with Sakura, curious and asking. My home is on the other side of the commercial street. Are you on your way? Let's go back together. Yin Wu put his hands in his pocket, leisurely. Hey! That's quite a coincidence. Ino grabbed Sakura's arm and said with a smile, Sakura and I both live nearby. Since that's the case, let's go back together. Hey, isn't it? At least it was the guy who defeated Sasuke and ended up hanging out with a girl. An untimely voice suddenly sounded, and Yin Wu turned his head to see Ya, with both hands in his pockets, passing by a few people, looking like he was pulling. Yin Wu blinked and said, I think it's pretty good. Yeah, why don't you play with girls? Is it because you don't like it? Bastard. You have to deal with it. Yaden was stabbed in the pain of his foot and shouted with a red face, girl, it only affects the speed of my claws. Hee. Yin Wu wore a pair of dead fish eyes and smiled awkwardly without losing manners. You are noble, you are amazing. Akamoto is almost old and you're not married yet. Naruto's son has graduated from ninja school. Indeed, he deserves to be a dog owner, just go ahead and pass the time. I'll catch up soon, and whether it's Sasuke or Inwuyu, they'll all be my defeated subordinates. Oh. Ya pinched her waist and burst into laughter. After laughing for a while, she found no one to respond. Turning her head, she saw that few people had already left. I don't know where Muyi sells fishing rods. I came in a hurry and forgot to bring my fishing rod. I plan to buy a better one. Hey. I know, it's already in the first generation of the commercial street, probably located in the area of the ninja shop. Looking at Yin Wu and Jingyi chatting and laughing, Ye suddenly felt lonely, and the warm summer breeze suddenly began to rustle. Get away, little devil. The three of them were walking on the road when suddenly a burst of angry scolding came from ahead. Yin followed the sound and found that Naruto had been pushed down by a ninja shop owner. Damn it. Why push me? Naruto rubbed his buttocks angrily. I just want to buy a set of hand swords, you bastard. Humph, I don't have anything I can sell you here. The sturdy shop owner hugged his arm, looked disdainful, and casually threw the crumpled banknote that Naruto had just handed over to the ground. Hurry up and get out of here, don't get in the way. Business is not good anymore, bad luck. Is that Naruto? Inoue was a bit surprised. Do you want to buy cutting tools? Why doesn't the boss sell them to him? Don't you know? Yin Wu was also somewhat surprised. He thought that Inoue would at least know something, after all, she was the Miss Ninja. Ino shook his head and said, I'm not sure. Since I met that guy, he hasn't been very popular. I always thought he wasn't liked because he liked pranks, but when I entered school, it seemed like the parents of other students all hated him. This is clearly not the impact of pranks. I've heard of that before, said Sakura weakly beside Ino. When school started, my parents also told me to stay away from him, and I always hear people say Naruto is a monster. The sound disappeared, so I stopped paying attention. Naruto has been wronged, and there is nothing to do with his voice. He is not interested in being any justice ambassador. Yin Wu is a typical lazy person. When he becomes lazy, he will always think about things he doesn't have. Over time, he becomes more transparent and his views on certain things are not as extreme as those of his peers. For example, the attitude of the villagers in Mai towards Naruto is an undeniable fact, regardless of the reason. P.S. Saying that the behavior of the villagers is not wrong does not mean that they are doing the right thing. From their perspective, Naruto is like a demon fox. If there is no problem, it does not mean it is correct. Diode readers, please remain calm. Although attributing the cause of the major disaster to a child and making Naruto a vent of hatred among the villagers is inhumane, ultimately all of this is a problem for the senior management of Kiba. In contrast, the villagers were only indifferent, ostracizing and cursing, occasionally pushing and shoving, and the children throwing 2 stones. To be honest, Yin Wu felt that the villagers of Muyi were already quite simple. Many people say that Naruto should be blackened out, and no one thinks it's reasonable, but they don't fully agree. Villagers hate Naruto, it's reasonable. It is equally reasonable for Naruto to seek revenge against the village. The contradiction between the two sides ultimately lies in their different stances, and the uniqueness of the protagonist lies in their often harboring people's yearning for beautiful things. Naruto has turned black, and the sound is not pleasing to see its success. If Naruto can firmly believe in achieving his ideals, he may appreciate it even more. After all, he is the protagonist who carries his youth. Speaking from the bottom of his heart, Yin Wu doesn't really want to see the other person forever living in madness. Damn it. Naruto stood up at the entrance of the ninja shop with red eyes, pointed to the owner, and shouted loudly, I, Naruto Vortex. I will definitely become Hokage. Let everyone recognize me. The shouting echoed throughout the street, attracting the attention of many people. Yin Wu's footsteps paused and he looked at Naruto in surprise, then couldn't help but chuckle. Ah! I can't bear it, Naruto that idiot, shouting and yelling. Ino couldn't bear to look straight at him and lightly sighed on his forehead. I think it's very good, Yin Wuman said thoughtlessly. Maybe it can really be achieved. It's impossible. Ino looked incredulous. That guy is the end of a crane. If you're talking about Hokage, whether it's Minamoto or Sasuke, your chances are higher than Naruto, right? Who knows what the future holds? Yin Wu chuckled lightly and said, anyway, I don't have much idea about that position. A few people walked towards the direction of the commercial street, and not far away, Naruto suddenly noticed 3 people named Yin Wu. He immediately got up and patted the dust on his body, pretending to be strong and pulling a warm smile. Yo! Yin Wu, Jing Yi, scatter kula sauce. Yin Wujian was a bit surprised. Didn't Naruto during this period fall in love with Sakura? Glancing at Sakura's delicate bangs, the sound was unclear. At this time, the girls seemed to have not yet experienced a transformation of confidence. Naruto, you. Ino felt inexplicably anxious as he saw Naruto's appearance. You're okay. Oh, by the way. Ino finished speaking before being interrupted by a nearby voice, Naruto, are you going to buy a sword in your hand? Coincidentally, I have a new set at home, so you can take it and use it first. Ah. Really? Naruto was pleasantly surprised upon hearing this, and then seemed to realize something, feeling a bit embarrassed. Sure enough, forget it. If I use it, you won't be able to use it. Why don't you keep the money? As he spoke, he bent down and hastily picked up the money that had just been thrown away by the shop owner. He was about to give it to Yin Wu, but Yin Wu held it down on his shoulder. Naruto. Yin Wu said with a deep gaze, I don't want the money anymore. Anyway, it's an item left by the former homeowner. Please accept it well. Yin Wu Shue. Naruto was immediately deeply moved, with a sense of resonance as if he had died as a confidant. Why? Why? You should be able to understand, right? Then, Ludwa. The voice remained silent and deep, with my skills, I will basically say goodbye to the sword in my hand in this lifetime. Naruto. Ah, that's right, today's update, 2 chapters with 4,500 words, recommended for collection. Oh, everyone, end of this chapter. Chapter 7. Is Nissan Oh, sign up and make changes. Welcome to Invest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 is Nissan, sign up and add more. Welcome to Invest. In the blink of an eye, a week quietly passed by. In just a few days, Yin Wu has fully adapted to the life in Muyi. After all, compared to the previous mountain valleys, Mai has at least some modern facilities, such as electric lights and water heaters. Although it doesn't have entertainment products like mobile phones and tablets to pass the time, if you really have that idea, it's not impossible to produce these things in advance. The technology tree of Hokage is a bit mysterious, but it doesn't mean that the research ability of the ninja world is not good. As long as you provide a little direction, these ninjas can come up with what you want in various inexplicable ways. What is a mobile tablet? Look at the rebellious and tolerant Scorpion Master from the neighboring village who almost flew up mechanically. The classroom was filled with noise. Naruto was constantly pestering Sasuke, while Ya and Shino were lying on the table playing with insects. Lumuru was half asleep, while Dingji was munching on snacks on the side. Next to Yin Wu, Inoue and Sakura were chatting gossip, while Yin Wu was wandering in the sky, with transformers and cultivators in his mind, unable to stop. Everyone be quiet. Irika walked into the classroom, holding the lesson plan in his arms and loudly exclaimed, "Today we're going to learn transformation techniques." As the words fell, Ben suddenly burst into a boiling pot. Long live! I'm finally going to learn ninjutsu. A certain yellow-haired person leaped up. Great, transformation technique. I must be the first in the class to learn it, said Inazukaya, a scumbag second only to Naruto. This is impossible, Tooth. If you want to say why. Silence. Before a figure with a low sense of presence could finish speaking, Irika loudly stopped the commotion in the class. Then, Ludo. Get off the table. Everyone be quiet. If anyone disturbs the classroom discipline again, stand in the hallway for me. Bennett fell silent for a moment. After all, it was his first time learning ninjutsu, and no one wanted to miss such a significant lesson, even Naruto was no exception. In fact, Naruto's transformation technique was indeed impressive, especially in certain aspects. As the class quieted down, Iruka nodded in satisfaction and began drawing the chakra timetable on the blackboard. First of all, then of all, Wabi Babu. Iruka spoke in great detail, but unfortunately I didn't quite understand the sound. Or maybe I understood, but I didn't fully understand. He understood the truth, it was nothing more than chakra covering, similar to invisibility, while circulating through the meridians in his body, transforming into humans, animals, or even trees. He could understand everything, but he just couldn't understand how this thing could turn a living person into a sword in his hand. This is so unscientific. It's not even conserved, okay? Either Naruto is a genius, even if there is such a big difference in body size when developing a seduction technique, he can still shake chakra duang up. The shadow clone turned into shattered stones, and even Pain's reincarnation eyes couldn't see it. Alright, that's all for the basic theory. Now I'll give you a demonstration, Iruka said, leaving a seal and suddenly becoming silent in the front row. Wow! It's really the same as Yin Wu. Sakura held her small face in adoration. Inoue looked disinterested, glanced at Iruka's transformed voice and waved his hand with a hint of disinterest. His temperament is completely different. Yin Wu won't show that sunny smile anymore. Yin Wu smiles like this. As she spoke, she scratched her hair, pulled a silly curve at the corner of her mouth, and her eyelids drooped into a pair of dead fish eyes. Ha ha ha, then she transformed into a cunning expression and lightly covered the corner of her mouth, saying, or maybe it's like this. Ah ha ha ha, finally, Inoue's smile gradually became unethical, shaking his head slightly as if Director Jean had possessed him. His voice was powerful and full of energy, and he said, and there's something else. Ah ha ha ha, dot. There was a burst of laughter in the class, with Yin Wu's face speechless. Upon hearing this laughter by the window, Sasuke's face turned black and he remembered some unpleasant memories. Iruka feels a bit helpless. Can you be more serious in class? Ino is right. There is no perfect transformation in the world. Even if it becomes the same, people will still see flaws in some actions and details. So how to disguise a target? The first thing we need to do is to carefully observe the habits and actions of the other party, as well as some physical details. As Iruka spoke, he lifted his transformation spell and looked around the class, which student below would like to come up and give everyone a demonstration. I. Little Huang Mao in the back row quickly raised his hand. I. Beside him, Inazukaya refused to be outdone. Iruka glanced at Naruto's direction and frowned slightly, but ultimately turned to Ya and said, "Ya, come on." Is Iruka still unable to untie the knot at this stage? Inwu noticed Iruka's gaze, and these days he noticed that Iruka had a more indifferent attitude towards Naruto. Unless the other person was sitting at the table or jumping out of the window, he usually wouldn't actively engage with them. There is a meme circulating among Hokage fans that says that the entire ninja world owes Iruka one life, which is a bit exaggerated, but it really makes sense. If it had to be said, without Iruka letting go of his hatred to warn Naruto, there would have been no heroes who later saved the ninja world, and the whole world would have to daydream with Daitu. At this time, Iruka was only 16 or 17 years old, and at the same age as before, his peers on Earth were still sleepwalking in the Berlin Air Defense Tower, constantly bombarding planes with gunfire every night. It was already not easy to be a diligent teacher. Also, to be honest, Iruka doesn't look too young. However, it is normal for ninjas to be older. Chakras are extracted from within cells, so the metabolic rate of ninja cells is definitely faster than that of ordinary people. After all, not everyone can be like a pillar, a piece of foot skin can sprout a bean sprout on an acre of land, and until death, she will be in her 20s, forcing her daughter-in-law to practice yin sealing to maintain her appearance. You can only rely on the external demonic image to survive, drink it. Transform. Yin Wu, who was brainstorming, was pulled back to reality with a loud shout from his teeth. With a loud bang, the teeth in front of me transformed into a set of medium ninja vests, and my face remained the same as before. Ha ha ha, that guy ya. Naruto laughed heartily. Sasuke propped up his chin, with a smile on his lips and a disdainful snort, disdaining the transformation of his teeth. It's just a transformation technique, I have mastered it a long time ago. Nissan once said, I already had the ability to endure before entering school. Transformation technique. Humph, that's why children use this move when fighting, no way race. That's too much. The class burst into laughter, and with a moment of embarrassment, I just accidentally made a mistake. Alright, does anyone else want to give it a try? Iruka smiled and rubbed his dog's head, looking expectantly at Yin Wu and Sasuke. These two people, one with the strongest strength and the other with the best grades, Iruka personally thinks that Yin Wu is more talented. Although he didn't even recognize all the characters, he is so strong. No one can defeat him in this week's practical class. Sasuke, classmate. Iruka's gaze ultimately fell on Sasuke. After all, he was the second young master of the Uchiha family, and it was very likely that he had already learned the transformation technique. As for Yin Wu, apart from invincible physical skills, he has not yet seen any talent in ninjutsu. Sasuke stood up, with a reluctant expression of wanting me to take action on such a small matter. He walked to the classroom with his hands in his pockets and raised his hand to tie a seal. Transform. With a loud bang, two Irukas appeared in the classroom, causing the girls in the class to scream loudly. He is truly a genius of the Uchiha family. Iruka is also very pleased. Although he did not teach it himself, there is such a genius in the class, and he is also proud to be a teacher. Humph, boring. Sasuke looked proud and coquettishly snorted, unlocking his transformation technique, and then provocatively raised his chin in the direction of Yin Wu. You guy, shouldn't your ninjutsu talent be worse than your sword talent? As the words fell, everyone's gaze immediately turned to Yin Wu. Yin Wu lay on the table and lazily lifted his eyelids upon hearing the words, glancing at Sasuke. Then there was only a loud explosion, with no trace left, and it turned into the appearance of a weasel on the spot. Look. Sass, it's Nissan, bastard. This book has been submitted for signature. Expected to change status soon. Everyone, come and invest. Seeking recommendation, wheezing and hiccups. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Tang Yuzhibo, 4,500 words. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Tang Yuzhibo, 4,500 words. Surprisingly, he used the transformation technique without sealing the seal. Iruka held down Sasuke's explosive hair and looked at Yin Wu with disbelief in his eyes. Although in theory, any ninjutsu with high proficiency in strong chakra control can be released without imprints, many people can achieve this basic three-body technique of transformation without imprints. However, Yin Wu is just a newly enrolled child. Has this chakra control ability fully reached the level of Zhongren? Genius. Absolute genius. Although the talent on the sword in her hand is a bit lackluster, this kind of thing doesn't matter at all. Isn't Yongdai Mei, who is known as the Yellow Flash, throwing her sword all over the ground? Do you think it affects his killing? Yin Wu, you are really amazing. Inoue beside her was very admiring, and as a noble woman of the same clan, she naturally understood the level of invincibility when casting spells. What? You said Sasuke. He looks quite handsome, and his talent is decent, isn't he? What? I like Sasuke. Don't speak recklessly. When did I like Sasuke? Everything is afraid of comparison. Since Yin Wu arrived, Inoue has been comparing the two most handsome guys in the class. In terms of appearance, both are outstanding handsome guys. It's difficult to compare them, but the sound without skin is better, delicate and flawless like 3D modeling. In terms of temperament, Sasuke looks cool, but at this stage, Sasuke's arrogance and coldness still carry a bit of immaturity, more like a hard concave. In contrast, although Yin Wu always appears lazy, he has a kind of brotherly friendliness, sometimes insightful and mature, and sometimes funny, which is also very attractive. In terms of strength, there is no comparison. For Ino now, the classic line goes. Sasuke, don't talk to me anymore, I'm afraid there might be no misunderstanding. A class passed like this amidst the astonishment of his classmates and the dissatisfaction of Sasuke. During this time, Naruto also performed the transformation technique, and surprisingly, he truly transformed into the appearance of Iruka. Although only one head. Don't let you become like my brother again. After class, Sasuke said to Yin Wu with a displeased expression on his face. Okay, I got it. Yin Wu thought to himself. The cheerful appearance of the other party made Sasuke feel like he had punched the cotton, and his indifferent appearance made him uncomfortable for a while. Then, as if he remembered something, the corner of his mouth slightly curled up and said, I'm afraid you don't know yet. My brother has already entered the dark department. Did he commit something? Joining the dark side, you bastard. Listening to Sasuke's childish roar, the sound was dull and uninteresting. Why are you so proud? What do you have to be proud of? Does not joining the dark side mean that your Uchiha is not far from annihilating the clan? But speaking of it, remember Itachi joined the dark side when he was 11 years old, right? At the age of 13, he was promoted to the position of captain of the dark department, and in the same year, Uchiha exterminated his clan. That is to say, Uchiha had almost 2 years of remaining lifespan and was exterminated in Sasuke's 3rd grade, when he was 8 years old. Speaking of which, this is a good opportunity for him. If he could swallow a body of Uchiha, Yin Wu was a bit tempted, but upon reflection, he decided to give up. It was too dangerous, so let it go. He is not an unsatisfied person. He is currently living a peaceful and leisurely life, and there is no need to take that risk. He has nothing to do but climb mountains, fish, and eat hot pot with his young sister Jinya, singing and enjoying himself. Isn't it good? To put it simply, it's just being lazy and cowardly. Yin Wu wants to be a gangster and has no intention of getting involved with Yuzhibo, but unfortunately, things always go against his expectations. On the weekend, by a river outside my village. Yin Wu sat on a pony, wearing a straw hat crookedly, with a small bucket and a fishing rod propped up beside him. Not far away, Ino and Sakura were picking wild flowers, while Yin Wu enjoyed the beautiful scenery of lowly picking flowers while leisurely fishing. And while he was still praising the beauty of time, suddenly a strong wind swept by, and a big cat jumped out of the forest, its claws pouncing on the bucket next to Yin Wu, which was filled with several fish. Yin Wu's eyes were sharp and his hands were quick. He raised his hand and moved the bucket away, kicking it out with one foot. Accompanied by the cat's screams, the fat cat was kicked backwards by Yin Wu's foot. The fat cat was covered in orange and flipped on the ground twice before quickly getting up. Its paws rubbed its chin and it looked angry. Meow. Damn it, just a human cub. Before he could finish speaking, Yin Wu's figure appeared before its eyes as if flashing. Her handsome face pressed against its face, her eyes wide open without any emotional fluctuations. Her white and tender little fist was raised high, as if it could penetrate the core of the earth with this punch. Snoring. The orange cat gestured to the lucky cat, I'm very sorry, meow, it's a ninja cat. Inoue, who was picking flowers not far away, noticed the commotion here and his eyes lit up. He jumped up and touched the fat cat's big head, saying, kawaii. Chubby. Sakura stirred her hands together, wanting to touch but not daring. The ninja cat was angrily rubbed on its head by Inoue. Although it wanted to resist, it was left with a fierce and hesitant expression from the side of the silent voice. Why does Ninja Cat appear here? I heard from my dad that Ninja Cat has its own territory and is not easily able to reach the human realm. Ino was puzzled. Perhaps you couldn't afford to eat anymore, so you came to the human realm to be a fish thief, right? Yin Wu joked casually, reaching out and lightly tapping the big orange's head. If you want to eat fish, at least you should be more polite, right? It's not meowing like you said. I'm just being chased and in a hurry. The big orange covered his head, feeling very angry. As soon as the words fell, there was a rustling sound in the nearby trees. Sasuke's figure walked out of the woods, his sword and kowu in his hand between his fingertips, his face calm. Suzy. Inoue looked surprised and noticed the other person's outfit. He couldn't help but wonder, are you chasing this ninja cat? Sasuke was also taken aback when he saw the three of them. He noticed the trembling orange cat next to Yin Wu and spoke calmly, I didn't mean to kill it, I just used its paw print. Jingyi was puzzled and turned to look at Deju. Since that's the case, won't you just give him that? Why have you been chased for so long? Humph, human little girl, what do you know about meows? Big Orange picked up her paws in dissatisfaction. For us ninja cats, paw prints are like intimate meows in nude photos of you humans. Yin Wu glanced at Sasuke and said, do you still have this hobby? It's not like that. Sasuke blushed and quickly explained, it's Grandma Cat who wants to collect paw prints. Coincidentally, Nissan used this to assign me a trial task. I understand. Yin Wu nodded with a look that I understood very well. It seems that your brother is also being harassed by you. No way. My brother wouldn't bother me. He's just too busy to spend time with me. Sasuke looked embarrassed and annoyed. Well, that's right, after all, you guys have a good brotherly relationship. You even have to carry an apple candy on your brother's back. Yin Wu raised his chin and smiled playfully, you really. Oh, Kawaii has a lot of mouth. As the words fell, Ino and Sakura were both surprised. Unexpectedly, Sasuke still had such a side. Sasuke's face turned red and he said, it's just. It's not what you said, you bastard. As he spoke, his gaze suddenly caught a glimpse of the ninja cat next to Yin Wu, and his thoughts flashed. He sneered and pointed at Yin Wu, you guy, dare you fight me again? Do you have any colorful hair? Yin Wu raised her eyebrows slightly. Humph, I knew you would say that, Sasuke snorted lightly. I admit that your strength is above mine, but it seems that you don't have any ninjutsu that you can handle yet. If you can beat me, I'll teach you Hokage. What do I want that thing for? It can't kill anyone. Yin Wu rolled her eyes and said, the only thing I can hold is a grand fireball, the second young master of the Uchiha clan. I've heard that Itachi is almost graduating from ninja school at this age, and you, the second young master of the Uchiha family, are still playing with balls. Bastard. What do you want? Sasuke was furious with these words. Does Huodan have A.level ninjutsu? Yin Wuxiao's cunning. You have a beautiful idea. Even B.level ninjutsu requires a certain contribution to the clan in order to learn. Sasuke curled his lips and said, and my brother once said that the power of fire escape depends more on the caster's own abilities. Similarly, the power released by my brother and I are completely different from that of the Hogwarts. It's not interesting. Yin waved his hand in a dull and uninterested tone. The speed of Haohua Ball is too slow. I heard it was created by the Yuzhibo clan in ninjutsu. Whether it's swordsmanship or ninjutsu, Yuzhibo really likes to do these fancy things. Don't insult Uchiha. Sasuke suddenly became angry. Then you should come up with a decent colorful head. Yin Wu shrugged and sighed helplessly. Sasuke gritted his teeth and knew that Yin Wu was provoking him, but unfortunately, he just fell for it. However, he was repeatedly angered by Yin Wu and learned to be smarter. Upon hearing this, he directly asked, "What kind of luck can you bring out? You're probably not even able to bring out a sword in your hand, right? Ha! Didn't you challenge me just now?" Yin Wu scratched her hair with a puzzled expression, and then suddenly said, "It turned out to be just a few shouts. In fact, she doesn't even have the courage to punch the strong. No wonder Yuzhibo can continue from the Warring States period to this day. As a gift to you, damn it." Ah! Sasuke couldn't hold his breath anymore, staring angrily at Yin Wu. "Fight me. Now. If you can beat me, B.level ninjutsu is up to you. If you lose, please apologize to Uchiha obediently." A faint smile flashed in Yin Wu's eyes and he said, "Okay, is it still a showdown? This time we're better than tracking." Sasuke said coldly with a finger at Daiju, who was not by his side. Intelligence gathering, enemy tracking, these are all essential qualities for ninjas. We'll catch this guy first. That. Big Orange said with a sarcastic tone, "Have you ever considered my opinion?" Sasuke looked arrogant and said, "Uchiha has a special product, Mushin Liao wine. I also have dried fish that my mother hung for Tongling Ninja Cat at home. You can choose from it when the time comes." Without hesitation, the Jew fell to the ground and said, "Please make sure that I witness this destined battle with my own eyes." Since that's the case. Yin Wu scratched her hair and said, "Let's talk about it. What's the process? Let this guy run for 5 minutes first, and we'll leave in 5 minutes. During this time, we're allowed to interfere with each other. Whoever catches that guy first will be considered the winner," Sasuke said calmly. "Okay, that's it." Yin Wu looked at Inoue and said, "Let Inoue take the time." Leave it to me." Inoue nodded. "So I'm starting to run away." The Jew looked at Yin Wu and then at Sasuke. The two nodded and their figures disappeared in place for a moment. I will definitely defeat you this time, wait and see." Sasuke snorted lightly and began packing his ninja bag on his own. Yin Wu glanced at him and felt that he was truly a young master of a big family. However, at the age of 6, he had all the swords and smoke-free bullets in his ninja bag. Not only that, he also had auxiliary supplies such as steel wire gauze, hemostatic medicine, and military grain pills. Although the quantity was not large, the scope was very comprehensive. Speaking of which, it has been over a week now. His downstairs store has not been rented out yet, and half of the energy gained from barbecue has been consumed, forcing him to go fishing to replenish his energy. Yin Wushin wandered outside the sky, and Sasuke couldn't help but sneer at his appearance. This guy will definitely pay the price for his arrogance today. Finally, the 5-minute countdown ended, and with the sound of Inoue, the two figures instantly disappeared into place. Sasuke ejaculated and chased towards the direction where Daiju had previously left. And Yin Wu rushed towards Sasuke. Nani? Seeing Yin Wu rushing towards him from the beginning, Sasuke was suddenly startled and understood the other person's thoughts in an instant. This guy wants to kill me first, and then slowly find the cat. Damn it. Bang. Carrying Sasuke, who had fainted to death, in the shocked gaze of Ino and Sakura, Inoue dodged and disappeared into place. In no time, he returned carrying Sasuke, with a few more hemp ropes in his hand first, remove Sasuke's ninja bag, dig through it and tie the opponent's wrist with a steel wire, then tie it tightly with a bandage, and then use hemp rope to tightly tie Sasuke's entire body. Finally, dig a pit in place and bury it horizontally in the soil, leaving only his head outside. On the side, Ino and Sakura were stunned as they watched as Yin Wu stepped on the mound buried with Sasuke, returned to the pony and sat down, continuing his fishing career. Half an hour later, Sasuke finally woke up from his coma, only to find that he was tied more than Zongzi, and his face turned black. What have you done? Yin Wubiao, who was fishing, glanced at him and said, Oh. Are you awake? Sasuke's face turned black, and he was about to use the rope removal technique to untie the restraint, only to find that a circle of steel wire was tied to his wrist. And it's tightly tied, and with just one force, you can cut your wrist to that extent. Not only that, but his fingers were also bound one by one, and this texture. Is it a bandage? Is there a bandage on the outside of the steel wire? Is this something that humans can do? Let go of me. Sasuke's face turned black. That's not possible. I don't know how to track. If I let you go, wouldn't I be determined to lose? Yin Wu said, why don't you give up? Damn it. Sasuke tried to earn and found that the steel wire was not loose at all. He couldn't help but snort coldly, even if you tie me up and can't catch that cat, you still can't win. That's right. Yin Wu nodded, but he will come back sooner or later. After all, you said you wanted to treat him to mu tian liao wine and dried small fish. Sasuke suddenly froze and his eyes turned black. Bastard. You're cheating. You said you could interfere with each other. Yin Wu shrugged and looked surprised. You probably can't afford to lose, can you? Shame on yourself, Tang Yuzhibo. Stop talking, you bastard. I'll give up. Sasuke exclaimed with a loud cry. He was now pained by the words Tang Yuzhibo, and famous Yuzhibo, that Yin Wu stimulated. Seeing Yin Wu's teasing, he finally couldn't hold back. Ah, how can we fix it? Oh. You all heard me. Yin Wu waved to Inoue Sakura and her companions not far away with a smile. Remember to be a witness to me, both of you. Sigh. What should I say? Inoue felt a little helpless. I didn't realize before that Sasuke and Naruto were actually of the same type. Even though they were not opponents of Inoue, they were still entangled and immature. Sakura looked sympathetic and said, Sasuke, you're so pitiful. Upon hearing this, Sasuke stubbornly turned his head and his eyes gradually became moist. Whether it's mockery or humiliation, I won't care. Just don't look at me with that kind of sympathetic gaze. Damn it, 4,500 words are presented. This book has been signed. Seeking recommendation and monthly pass, everyone is whimpering and burping, end of this chapter. Chapter 9. Visiting Yuzhibo, seeking monthly pass. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Visiting Yuzhibo, seeking monthly pass. After a while, the Uchiha tribe lands. 3 people and 1 cat followed Sasuke to Sasuke's house. Panju was found by Sasuke after he was released from the shackles of Yin Wu. There's no way, Yin Wu really doesn't have this kind of training, otherwise there's no need to knock out Sasuke. If you insist on finding it, you can still find it, but it will expose a lot of things. Once someone discovers something, Muyi will definitely not be able to stay any longer, and the entire ninja world may not have its own place to hide. Wow! What a big house, it truly deserves to be Yuzhibo. Looking at the luxurious he-style mansion in front of me, I couldn't help but admire it. Although the architectural style of Shaotian was copied from China, after being influenced by factors such as climate and environment in the local area of Neon, as well as many years of evolution, there are still some things to be seen, such as being well done in areas such as simplicity, tranquility, simplicity, and lightness. Of course, it cannot be ruled out that it is due to the poverty of ancient neon lights. If you want to force yourself, you don't have the necessary conditions. Unfortunately, you can only go further and further in terms of elegance. Following Sasuke into the entrance, Sasuke took off his shoes and said, I'm back. Sasuke is back. A black-haired woman wearing an apron walked out of the room. The woman looked young and beautiful, with a face that was 80% similar to Sasuke's. It was Sasuke's mother, Uchiha Meichin. Meichin was taken aback when she saw that there were only a few people behind Sasuke and said, how could Sasuke bring his friends home? I'm not a friend. Sasuke looked resentful. "Hello auntie, I am Sasuke's friend." Yin Wu said sincerely, "I am also a friend of the Uchiha clan." "You bastard is just thinking about Uchiha's ninjutsu." Sasuke suddenly became furious. This guy is so shameless. He used to mock Uchiha in various ways, but now he has become Uchiha's friend. Do you dare to be even more shameless? Sasuke, don't be impolite. A deep voice came from the room, and a tall and imposing man walked out of the room. Yuzhibo Fuyue, Sasuke's father, the head of the Yuzhibo clan. Fuyue walked up and glanced at San's face. When he saw Yin Wuxia, there was a hint of a smile on his face. Sasuke is still bringing his friends home for the first time. I think this must be Yin Wujuan, right? Hello uncle, he said politely without nodding his head. Meanwhile, Inoue Sakura and the other two quickly greeted each other. Fuyue's serious expression brought a lot of pressure to the two girls. Fuyue nodded slightly before looking at Sasuke beside him. He noticed Sasuke's disheveled expression and couldn't help but laugh. It seems that Sasuke has suffered a considerable loss this time. Upon hearing this, Sasuke's face turned red. A few people, come in and sit down. Sasuke, go and tidy up quickly. As the head of the Uchiha clan, Fuyue's etiquette is very good, even if he is only facing 3 children and a cat entertaining 3 people and a cat to sit down in the harmony room. Mei-chin thoughtfully brought some juice to them, and Diju also drank the Yuzhibo specialty Mushinliao wine as she wished, lying beside Yin Wu and licking the small wine bowl non-stop. Fuyue sat cross-legged with his big golden sword and arms crossed, his gaze carefully examining Yin Wu with a hint of approval in his eyes. Sasuke has mentioned you to me more than once these days, saying that there is an excellent new classmate in the class who has been defeated by you more than once. Even when Itachi mentioned you to me, his words were quite appreciative. Haha, is that right? Yin Wu scratched her hair and laughed heartlessly. I'm just a special blood heir, not worth mentioning. Fuyue couldn't help but laugh at Yin Wu's expression and said, Yin Wu Jun doesn't need to be humble. As a father, I know my 2 sons the best. Although Sasuke's talent is not as good as his brother's, it can still be considered as reaching the threshold of tolerance. Yin Wu Jun's ability to easily defeat him is enough to demonstrate your strength. If you weren't really excellent, with Itachi and Sasuke's proud personality, you wouldn't have been so highly respected. While the door was suddenly opened, and Sasuke changed into a kimono, wearing slightly damp hair and standing at the door with a displeased face. Humph, I didn't admire him. Sasuke, I have told you many times not to lose etiquette in front of guests. Fuyue's tone was dissatisfied, but he did not scold Sasuke. He still loved this young son very much, and although he didn't express his emotions very much, he rarely had strict requirements for Sasuke like he did for Itachi. I understand. Sasuke knelt down next to Fuyue with a small face, then lowered his head slightly. Father, I have something to tell you. Seeing that Fuyue remained silent, Sasuke gritted his teeth and his heart sank. He recounted the incident of losing his ninjutsu just now, but did not mention a word of Yin Wu's teasing of Yuzhibo. In his words, he blamed himself entirely for the dispute between the two. Yin Wu looked at Sasuke with some surprise, and across from him, Fuyue hugged his arm and closed his eyes, calmly listening to Sasuke finish telling the story. After Sasuke finished speaking, he secretly glanced at Fuyue. Seeing that his father had no reaction, he lowered his head for a moment and said, I'm sorry, father, I. Lift your head, Sasuke. Fuyue suddenly spoke in a deep voice, interrupting Sasuke's words. The man from the Uchiha family, if he does it, he will do it. If he is wrong, he will be wrong. There is nothing he cannot face calmly. Upon hearing this, Sasuke's spirit was shaken and he said, Hi. Fuyue nodded slightly satisfied when he saw Sasuke regain his energy, and then continued, although your recklessness has caused some damage to the family, I am pleased that you have this perseverance and enterprising spirit. This is how the men of the Uchiha family should be. Upon hearing this, Yin Wu glanced at Sasuke, whose small face was tense and seemingly calm. However, the two small hands tightly gripping the corners of his clothes betrayed his emotions. "You're very happy, aren't you?" said Sasuke, leaning against him in a quiet voice. "No way, race." "Shut up, you bastard." Sasuke suddenly cracked open, his face flushed, and his good mood, which had been approved by his father, was completely destroyed. Fuyu looked at Yin Wu with a smile on his face and said, "Sasuke has been training much harder these days than before. It is fortunate for Sasuke to meet opponents like Yin Wu Jun. Since Sasuke has lost the competition again, the lottery will naturally come true. I wonder what type of ninjutsu does Yin Wu Jun want? The type of attack, right?" Yin Wu thought for a moment and said, "The type that combines strength, speed, and range. He's not polite either. After all, everyone has come, and any further persuasion may seem a bit fake, but it's actually looked down upon." "Humph, greedy guy." Sasuke looked a bit unhappy. "Is it a comprehensive ninjutsu?" Fuyu smiled and stood up with his knees propped up. "Since that's the case, please come with me." End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Buffet. Looking for a monthly pass. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Buffet. Looking for a monthly pass. A few people followed Fuyu to a nearby small lake, which was a training ground for ninjas in the village to practice water and fire escape techniques. Fuyu turned to look at Yin Wu and said, "Yin Wu Jun, do you know where the difference is between B.level ninjutsu and C.level ninjutsu?" Yin Wu shook his head, as if he were a low-energy person. "Comprehensive and specialized." Fuyu smiled and said, "Compared to C.level ninjutsu, B.level ninjutsu is usually more comprehensive in all aspects, or more advanced in a specific direction. According to Yin Wu Jun's needs, I do have two suitable ninjutsu techniques here, both of which are Uchiha's most famous fire escape. Let me show you first. It's up to Yin Wu Jun to decide which ninjutsu to learn." As he spoke, Fuyu turned around and walked to the shore, his hands quickly forming a seal. Fire escape. Extinguish the great fire. Bang! Fierce flames erupted from the mouth of Fuyu, transforming into a towering sea of fire that permeated the water surface, with a range of nearly 20 meters in width. Sasuke, Inoue, and Sakura couldn't help but exclaim in shock, their faces full of shock, and Yin Wu was also a bit absent-minded. Although from the perspective of range damage, Fuyue's fire extinction was far inferior to Uchiha's, the first time they saw this large-scale ninjutsu in reality, its effect was still very frightening. As the flames slowly dissipated, Fuyu once again sealed his seal. Fire escape. Dragon fire. A fierce roar sounded, and a fiery dragon head with a diameter of 7 or 8 meters flew out like a howitzer, hitting the water and causing a violent explosion. Fuyu kept moving and blew out 2 more flame dragon heads into the air. The dragon heads flew high into the air and exploded with a loud explosion, shining like fireworks. Whew! With a long sigh of relief, Fuyu turned around and looked at Yin Wu. The art of extinguishing the fire, the art of dragon fire, are both the most famous fire escape ninja techniques of my Uchiha. Among the two, Haohua Annihilation focuses more on speed and range, while Heilonghuo focuses on speed and power. Similarly, under the same chakra, its penetration and temperature are better than the former. In contrast, its casting range is inferior to Haohua Annihilation. However, its frequent and controllable characteristics can largely compensate for the shortcomings of its range. In terms of chakra consumption, Haohua Annihilation requires a large amount of chakra input, which has a certain threshold for chakra output. However, Heilonghuo's technique is much more flexible, and chakra consumption depends on the number of attacks. From a practical perspective, the former is usually suitable for the battlefield, while the latter has a wider range of applications. I wonder which one Yin Wu would like to learn more. I want to learn the art of dragon fire. Yin Wu made a choice without hesitation. There is nothing to hesitate about. The Haohua extermination used by Banyu requires 20 water escape ninjas to resist. It's not because Haohua extermination is so powerful, but because of the powerful Uchiha Banyubi. Haohua extinguishes but scatters, while Heilonghuo focuses. Although it causes death on the body, it is obvious that focusing brings stronger power. In terms of range, it can be compensated with the feature of multiple shots. In addition, you do not need to seal, so you can fully transform into a flame gatling with enough chakras. In case of insufficient chakras, you can also use single shots as a Haohua ball. Without hesitation, Fuyue praised with his gaze, but indeed, at this stage, Haolong fire is more suitable for you. As he spoke, he didn't mind Inoue and Sakura being on the side, directly explaining the technique of the dragon fire to Yin Wu. He didn't think these two little girls could learn Uchiha's signature ninjutsu by listening to it once. I informed Yin Wu of the root and printing sequence of Chakra's movements, and Sasuke blinked on the side, saying, "How do you feel? Like it's very similar to the Hogwarts technique my dad taught me before." "That's right." Fuyue nodded and said, "As the foundation of our Uchiha clan's ninjutsu, Heihonghuo has many advanced ninjutsu based on it. Heilonghuo is developed by incorporating the high-speed spread of the dragon fire technique on the basis of Heihonghuo." "I see." Xiao Sasuke suddenly understood, then turned his head to look at Yin Wu, and his heart for victory began to stir again. Yin Wu glanced at him. At this age, Sasuke couldn't hide any worries. Thinking about the other party's previous righteous behavior, he ultimately decided to let the foolish boy go. He turned around and walked to the water, clapping his hands. Fire escape. The art of dragon fire. Fuyue's face turned black. What's all this mess? Even if it's oneself who can endure, at least you need an Yin character seal to release ninjutsu. You, a young ghost who just entered school, just clapped your hands. Wait a moment, are you really that C character seal? What I'm teaching you is Hua done, not Mu done, you bastard. Bang! Before Fuyue could react, the dazzling flames suddenly illuminated his face. A flame dragon head several meters tall emerged from the sky, soaring along the sword fingers of Yin Wu. It leaped into the sky amidst the screams of Inoue and Sakura, and then dragged its long flame tail into the water with Yin Wu's graceful wave, triggering a large amount of steam. How could it be? Sasuke was stunned for a moment. You know, it took him several days to master a basic giant fireball, and the difference between B.level and C.level ninjutsu was not even a small difference. In his opinion, no matter how good his talent was, it would take half a month to learn, right? Fuyue beside him was also suddenly startled, as if waking up from a dream. Does this child actually learn B.level ninjutsu after trying it once? Moreover, judging from its power, the chakra capacity has also exceeded a significant portion of its endurance. With such talent, even Itachi may be slightly inferior, no wonder he can easily defeat Sasuke. Fuyue looked at Inwu's back with a hint of shock in his eyes. The last time he was so amazed was when Itachi learned how to play Hokaku, but Hokaku was only a C.level ninjutsu. Thinking of this, Fuyue couldn't help but ask, if I'm right, Yin Wu, you should be able to perfectly control the chakra inside your body, right? Yin Wu nodded and said, maybe you have some talent in this area. This is not a bit of talent, Fuyue sighed in his tone. With such outstanding chakra control, Yin Wujuan's future achievement will be the lowest, and he will also be a ninja. Not only that. Yin Wu is a blood successor ninja, and he will definitely become one of them in the future. Inoue swore confidently, seemingly confident in Yin Wu. Blood G. Fuyue seemed to have thought of something, his eyebrows furrowed slightly inexplicably, and his gaze swept over Yin Wu's right hand before finally falling on that white and delicate little face. Looking at that lovely little face, the faces of his two sons flashed through his mind, and he couldn't help but sigh softly. Yin Wu Jun, there is something I must remind you of. I will never spread ninjutsu out loud. Yin Wu thought he was going to talk about ninjutsu and quickly assured him. That's not it. Fuyue shook his head slightly. What I want to say is that this world is actually very dangerous, especially for a child with rare blood inheritance, even if you are in the wood leaf. So before you become stronger, it's best to restrain your own light. Yin Wu was stunned for a moment, feeling a bit surprised in her heart. This is reminding me to be careful of the high-level management of the wooden leaves. Or is it a group hiding place? So did he realize what was? Well, it seems like there's no need to realize anything. Tuanzang basically openly competes for various talents, but if Tuanzang is interested in himself, Speaking of which, from the perspective of Tuanzang's personality, there must be more than just two types of human experiments conducted. Columnar cells and writing will eyes, right. If I go into the route myself I blanch, buffet. Seeking recommendation and monthly pass, everyone is whimpering and burping, end of this chapter.